All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Market Close. We are here today on a very special occasion, and that occasion is the S&P inclusion potential for one stock that I care about, a company that I care about, a stock that I'm invested in, a company and a stock that I know a lot of you guys care about, which is Palantir. First of all, let me say this before we begin. The inclusion we will not know until 5:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So convert that to whatever location you are in. By the way, put in the chat where you're watching from. We haven't done this in a couple weeks. Put in the chat where you are watching from. We'll read out some countries and locations that everyone's watching from for this occasion. But we have about an hour and a half to go until we get the news. So a lot of analysis to do, a lot of preview stuff, a lot of stuff to talk about in the context of the market and the broader macro, but we will not get the news for another hour and a half. So if you only are here for that news, then check back in an hour. If you are here for the broader show, broader market, we'll talk about that stuff. And then around 5:15, we should officially know. Here is the website. I'm putting it in the chat right now. This is the website that will probably crash when we need to get the news. So let me show you guys right now what I'm going to be looking at. Most likely the website will be crashing at 5:15, but this is the website right here. I'm putting the link right here in the chat for anyone who wants to check it out. Usually it says as you can see right here, 5:15 is when they always announce news. I don't know why they do 5:15. This is the SP Global website, but they do 5:15, might be 5:30, might be 5:25. Website might crash and we might not be able to see it for, 5-10 minutes, but this is the website we'll be on at 5:15 and refreshing. I'll have a special guest join me as well from Palantir Weekly, probably around 5 p.m. to do some preview analysis. But until then, we're going to analyze the broader market. And then in about an hour, we'll see if Palantir ends up getting included into the S&P 500. Thank you, everybody, for being here. All right, let's see where everybody is from. We got Hazar from Norway. We got MK from Valaha. I love it. Netherlands in the chat. We got Texas. Gil from Texas. Andy from Scarbados. We got McBurger from San Francisco. I'm getting a call from Steve. Let me pick up the call first before we keep going. Steve, you're live with me on the market open or closed. Sorry.
Did you just wake up? It's
no, I didn't.
Open?
No.
What's going on here? I know you like taking naps during the day.
Steve, this is a big day for us. I was just reading out where people are watching from. We got people all across the world for this momentous occasion that we'll find out in about an hour. What does your gut say? Do you think we get into the S&P 500?
Well, I thought that you would not be live here, and I was just calling just to say, happy Palantir S&P 500 day.
So if you're declaring this as Palantir S&P 500 day, you're assuming we get into the S&P 500.
I mean, I would like to order another share of Palantir tonight and have engraved that on this day, Palantir entered the S&P 500.
Well, and Steve, I'll let you go again, and I know we'll talk later, but Palantir is up 1.11%, $30.50. The entire market, I know you've seen today, is blood red. Maybe.
I just looked for the first time 2 minutes ago when I got in the car.
Well, the whole market's red. Palantir's green. Maybe that's the reason. I mean, who knows?
Well,
maybe.
You know who wasn't red today?
Okay, Steve, today's about Palantir. We're not talking about DocuSign, but
I'm just saying, you know who wasn't red today?
All right, yes, DocuSign, your pick is great. Everyone knows it's your pick. I've told my whole channel that it's Steve's pick.
I'm getting somewhat good at this.
No, you're getting really good at this. All right, Steve, I got a lot to talk about. I'll talk to you later. I'll call you.
Palantir is, what's the reason they don't get in all seriousness?
I think the committee is stupid, which is probably the reason they won't get in.
That's not a real reason. What's the real reason?
Oh, the real reason is low institutional ownership, which could be the reason.
This is how you get institutional ownership. You force institutions to buy.
Kind of, but most companies have 60% before they get in. I get your point, but, it's one of those things.
This is how institutions buy. I mean, profitability is there. Size is there. They're in the right sector. They're in the right segment of the right sector.
I agree.
I would like to see who the committee puts over them. I mean,
Steve, are you going to be home at 5 p.m.? Could I send you a link? Could you join at 5 p.m.? At 5:15, we get the news.
We get the news at 5:15.
You get the news at 5:15. You can come on 5, and we'll see.
I'll be live with you at 5 o'clock for the news.
Okay, there you go. So I'll send you a link 5 p.m. We'll see what happens. We'll get the news together.
Sounds good.
All right, talk to you later.
Later.
Matt Money, I see you in the chat. Matt, I'm going to send you a link as well, and you hop on at 5 p.m. or 4:45, and then we'll get you on as well. All right, let me see where everyone else is from, and then we'll get started with all of the coverage. We got Kevin from the UK, CJ from Portugal, Lang from Australia, Zoflo from Atlanta, Philip from Boston, Ohio, Houston, the UK, Saudi Arabia, Phoenix, Arizona, Switzerland, Boston, Paris, Houston. From everywhere in the world, June says Uranus. She thought that was funny. You got me on that one, but not going to fall for it. Bay Ray from Alaska, your mom's basement. That's also funny considering I live in my parents' house, but not in the basement. Iowa, SoCal, Czech Republic, Minnesota, North Korea. I didn't even know they allow internet there. Jamaica, Westbrook. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. All right, so let's get started in the coverage. Again, we will have that market news around 5:15 p.m. One thing I'll start off by saying, and then we'll get into some more broader macro stuff, because obviously there's a lot to talk about in the context of what happened in the macro economy today with the sell-off. Palantir is green, and it's aggressively green. $30.38 is not the $32.75 high that we had a couple weeks ago, but we are going to close likely in 7 minutes above $30. If we close above $30, that is going to be 5 weeks, 35 days in a row of closing above $30, which is just incredible. And so the question is, here is the existential question. You know what? Let's actually make the poll in the chat and see what people think. The question is, are we getting the green because of S&P inclusion baked into the price? Or are we getting the green because the street realizes, hey, Palantir is a one-of-a-kind company and they deserve to be paying 30 times price of sales, where you may be saying, hey, that's a bit ridiculous, but the street is disagreeing with you. And if we don't get into the S&P 500, it doesn't matter. Meaning, if we get into the S&P 500, I think the stock does well, maybe maintains its multiple, maybe expands from it. You know, overall, we'll talk about all the reasons it's good to get in, but that's going to be a good thing. But if we don't get in, my question is, do we tank or do we stay flat? Because if we tank 20%, which would be insane to me, but let's say that happens, that means the 5 weeks leading up to this day was all based on S&P inclusion happening. And if it didn't happen, that means the street misjudged what would happen, and the street got it wrong, and they would sell off the stock, aka getting rid of Palantir's really unique premium that it has. It's the most expensive name in software. CrowdStrike did have that premium, and then CrowdStrike kind of messed up over the past couple of weeks. And so now you got Palantir having that premium. If we don't get in, but the premium still stays, and premium to me is $30, that 3 handle to me is the premium. If we stay flat after not getting in, then I think Palantir is just like a monster, because that means S&P inclusion is irrelevant. It will happen one day, maybe not this time, probably end of 2025, early 2026 if it's delayed a little bit longer. But that means that the market wasn't counting on S&P 500 inclusion, which is actually going to be really important for the broader thesis on Palantir. Okay, here's the poll. Palantir S&P inclusion, yes or no? We'll leave this poll on till 5 p.m. and we'll see as people enter the chat what people say, yes or no. And we'll see if we get it. My thoughts on if we get it or not. Look, I'm optimistic. I had a friend yesterday who texted me that he bought 300,000 shares of Palantir. And he said, I hope they get in, not $300,000, 300,000 shares. And he spent, a cool 11 million. So you've got some people that are able to just throw money around. I hope we get in. The only barrier I have, and, it's not to sound bearish on it, but at the end of the day, I don't want to get my hopes up all the time for this type of stuff, because we've been through this the past 3 cycles. But it's low institutional ownership. Low institutional ownership, I think, is the biggest problem with Palantir right now. I think, it's a retail heavy stock, and retail investors have done very well. So I don't think that's a bad thing. But the problem is S&P 500 committee really cares about institutional ownership. The argument that Steve just made on the phone was, hey, the way you get S&P or the way you get institutional ownership is by being included into the index. I understand that argument, but empirically, I believe it's wrong. CrowdStrike, GoDaddy, all these companies, they had 60 to 75% before they got in, and then they got up another 5 to 10% in institutional holdings. What you're seeing right here on the screen is Palantir's institutional shareholders. 44.15% of the float, about 945 million out of 2.2 billion shares, are held by Renaissance Technologies and Black Rock and Vanguard and all that stuff. The rest are held by retail. It has gone up over time. I mean, December 2020, it was 100 million, and it's gone up over and over. So it's 9x in the past 4 years. But is it enough for the committee to finally think that we deserve to be in the index? We are going to find out in about an hour. 5:15 is the time. If anyone joins and is confused about if we get in or not, please let them know. 5:15 p.m. EST. That is going to be the time to see if we get in. So if you're here right now, you're going to be chilling with me for the next hour and a half. And at 5:15, we're going to see what ends up happening. Poll so far, 54% of you say yes, 46% say yes, 54% say no. So we've got more bearish than bullish on this happening. Now, the big question for me right here on Palantir is, why is it green? And we'll get into our market coverage after the bell. We got 3 minutes until the market closes, and then I want to talk a lot more about the macro, the jobs report, everything going on today, because I have a lot of thoughts on that. We got a lot of new data this morning. But S&P, look at that, 539, dude. When's the last time you saw 539? I mean, let's just check it out right now. Last time we saw 539 was August 13th. So it's been almost a month since we had these levels. It's like just teetering at 540 right here into the close. Coinbase down 7%. Last time we saw Coinbase was at 140 was in February. Been a while. Why? Because Bitcoin is tanking right in front of us. If you have any Bitcoin proxies, you're not doing too good. Bitcoin at 53.5 right now. MicroStrategy down 4.3%. SMCI down 6.9. Where's NVIDIA? I haven't looked at it in about an hour. NVIDIA 102. So the fact that it's holding 100 is nice to me, but it was looking like it was going to go below 100 today. Tesla down 8%. Tesla was at 235 yesterday. Now it's 211. CrowdStrike 246. Eli Lilly 903. Meta at 500. Broadcom down 10.3%. They had a great earnings yesterday. Market said we do not care. Robinhood down 4%. Dell down 4%. Alibaba down 1%. UiPath, they had a great earnings yesterday as well. They were up 13% in the morning. Now they're down 6% on the day. My point of pointing out all the red is one stock that is green is Palantir. Now, Palantir is up 2.5% from the lows this morning. Palantir was at $29.64. If you got that bottom, I think the bottom was $29.56. But if you got the bottom in that $29.50, $29.60 range, you've done well today. My fear now is that we would still be at $29.50 if there were not for all this potential S&P 500 inclusion speculation. So either it's the speculation is propping it up above 30, because there's no reason when the NASDAQ is down almost 3% of the day that Palantir should be holding a 3 handle, just given the nature of Palantir's premium in the broader market, right? There's not a real logical way to conclude that, unless there's massive speculation on S&P 500 news, or some people know that we got into the S&P 500 and they started buying it up at the bottom. One or the other is going to be right. We're going to see what happens. We're going to see if it tanks if we don't get in, which would really be 20% to me. If we fall back to 29.50, that's not really tanking to me. Or if we go up because we get in. And if we do get in, it is going to be one of the most exciting days as a shareholder covering this story for Palantir. So we'll find out in about 75 minutes and see what ends up happening. All right, folks, 4 p.m. Friday, September 6th, Bloody Friday. It is the worst start to September or the 5th worst start to September since 1928. But now it's done. The stock market is now closed. All right, markets closed. So for the next hour, we're going to be talking about some macro, going to be talking about some jobs data. We're going to hear from what other people have to say. And then when we get closer to 5 o'clock, we'll be getting ready to hone in on what happens with Palantir for today. So let's take a look at how the market ended. Apple down about 1%. Microsoft down 2%. Meta down 3.2%. Google is now officially in a bear market, by the way. Google is officially down 20% from its high. So Google's in a bear market, down 20%. Amazon, or down 4% today, down 20% from July. Amazon down 3.65%. NVIDIA down 15% for the week, down 4% on the day. Tesla still up about 5% for the week, but down 8.45% on the day. Semis, bloodbath in the semis. Micron down 3%, Dell down 4%, Lam Research down 3%, ARM down 5%, Qualcomm down 3%, Broadcom, again, $13 billion, 47% year-over-year growth revenue yesterday. I thought it was a decent earnings. Market wanted a little bit more, down 10.3%, ASML down 5%, ON down 5%, Intel down 2%, AMD down 3.6%, SMCI down 6.7%, SMCI now down 70% from the top when it was at 12 hundo earlier this year. And then NVIDIA right here down about 4% of the day. Question for the chat. Did you buy the dip? Let me know. I did not buy the dip yet. I tweeted that earlier this morning. I didn't think the prices were compelling enough to buy the dip. I'm looking for August 5th prices. Maybe we get those. Maybe we don't. But if we get August 5th prices, given the earnings growth of a lot of those companies, I think it's an absolute bargain. I don't think we're getting those prices yet. And because we're not getting those prices yet, not the most excited to dabble in completely. But I understand if people are selling puts, or if people are saying, hey, I want NVIDIA at $100, or hey, I like Robinhood at 1890. I don't think that's, the worst thing in the world. And that makes a lot of sense to see if people end up picking that route. Let's hear from a couple of people in terms of what they have going on and how they're thinking of this broader market. We have a variety of different pieces of analysis. If you did buy the dip, I'm seeing a lot of yeses in the chat. Let me know, which dip did you buy, or like which stock did you buy on that dip? And we'll see what some people say. Let's listen to Tom Lee. So let's get his perspectives. He did have some interesting notes on Fundstrat today. Let's see what he and how he's conceptualizing this sell-off that we're having right now.
Talk of the tape, the road ahead for stocks. Definitely gotten bumpier. The question now is, are there too many potholes to get around? Let's ask Tom Lee. He's managing partner, head of research at Fundstrat, also a CNBC contributor, and also here live at Post 9. Welcome back.
Great to see you, Scott.
What's going on here, Tom?
Well, it's been a rough week. I mean, this September first 4 days were down 4%. It's actually one of the fifth worst Septembers since 1928. So it's pretty bad. I don't think there's actually a lot of fundamental arguments for why stocks are down this much, but I think we've pulled forward seasonality. This September to November period last year was really tough. Historically, it's tough, and I wonder if markets are going risk off early.
So you believe in the soft landing story. You said there's no fundamental reason for this. This is a debate over soft landing versus something worse. Market seems to be tilting towards something worse. You say no.
Yeah, the reason I don't think it's something worse, and we don't know, is that the jobs added was better than July. Remember, July was the hard landing fears because it was such a weak number. And in fact, the number of industries adding jobs jumped to 53%. That's the best in 6 months. And the unemployment rate fell. So I think we're at a point where the Fed could engineer a soft landing. And that's why 2 weeks from now, it's going to be important.
50, 25, does it matter to you?
I think it's going to be how the market interprets either number, because there can be such thing as a dovish 50 or a hawkish 50 or a panicked 50, even a hawkish 25. So I think the reality is the Fed is on a cutting cycle. That's really a good catalyst for rotation. Interest rates are going to fall, and it's going to help industries like housing, autos, credit cards come out of this recession. So I think it's good news when they start cutting.
Okay. What's happening in tech? We said that the NASDAQ's down more than 5% this week. We're having the worst week in about 18 months, and the tech sector itself is off more than 7 on the week. What's going on with that trade?
Tech, I think, revealed its hand last week because NVIDIA had a good number, but it fell. So when stocks fall on good news, it's either a crowded trade or something bad could be coming. And then, of course, they led the downside this week. I think it is part of this pull forward the seasonality because people want to de-risk, and tech is a big holding. But I think on the margin, there could also be a political aspect to this. Trump's probability of winning actually increased this week in the betting markets and in the polls. And I know investors think he'll be tough on China, which would be bad for semis. So I think part of this could be fears that a Trump gaining is bad for semis.
What if there's just too much priced into these stocks at this point? Valuations have gotten a little too rich, even if they're the greatest stocks in the world, which you've made the argument that, in fact, they are, that this is the place you want to be, maybe more than any other. And what if that's true and the multiples still don't make sense?
I think it's possible. In NVIDIA's last 10 years of history, there have been 30% drawdowns, almost 8 times of similar magnitude. Its PE, NVIDIA's forward PE, was actually higher at the bottom of those drawdowns. Right now, NVIDIA's forward PE is in the mid-20s. So to me, this looks like a normal profit taking. Maybe it takes NVIDIA down to the 90s, but I think 2 years from now, that's really going to be a gift. So
when you look at all of these, are you a buyer on the dip? Are you urging people who read your research and listen to you here and elsewhere to do that?
We're close to that point because let's say we thought that there would be a 7 to 10%, the risk of a 7 to 10% drawdown between now and November. We're almost down 5% now. I think next week we could be within that point of where we pulled forward that entire correction. into the month of September. So I think we're close to the point where, I mean, I wouldn't be a seller here. And I think the lower range of the S&P's 5,400, 5,350, we're almost there now.
You think the move from August 5th to, let's say, September 5th was justified? Was it too much? Was it built on reality? What do you think?
It's hard to know. I know that there was panic that caused that 3-day drawdown, and the VIX spiked to 66. So we know that there was panic. But we also know there was a ton of cash on the sidelines already into August that was put to work. And I think part of this was a liquidity move because we know the yen was highly correlated with that move. And it's kind of happening again. The yen's turned strong, and it's been putting pressure on stocks.
All right. So what is Tom Lee's kind of core argument? For those that are just joining, 5:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we got about an hour and 10 minutes left until we get the S&P 500 news. So right now we're just covering the macro and trying to go through what ended up happening today. What Tom Lee's talking about to start putting everything in perspective is all based on the jobs report that we got this morning. And unfortunately, this jobs report simply was not as good as what the market wanted, at least today. We added 142,000 jobs. The market wanted 160,000. Unemployment rate went down from 4.3 to 4.2%. Now, on a bird's eye view, you may think, oh, well, that's decent. Yeah, we didn't add 160. We still had 142,000. Why is the market freaking out so much? Well, there's two nuances to this. We revised down the jobs that we added in June in June and July, and July's revision was to 89,000 from 114,000. June's revision was down another 20, 30,000 as well. So the problem is, and this is what I came to the conclusion on when the sell-off was getting really bad around 1 p.m., is I kind of think the market's tired of these revisions. In 2021, if you guys remember when these reports came out every single month, we were revising to the upside because there was so much hiring and so much, essentially, so many companies basically saying, hey, it's time for us to rehire from all the companies, from all the employees that we lost during the pandemic. And so there was a big hiring boom. And so the market was kind of okay with the level of hiring we had. The problem was inflation got too high. So the hiring actually kind of was bad because then more people have money, more people are spending, more inflation happens. Now it's the opposite. Now inflation's basically been beaten down aggressively. We're not worried too much about inflation. Inflation continues to come down. But the problem is, although inflation's coming down, at what cost? Well, the cost was raising rates, the highest we've raised them, or the fastest we've raised them in the past 40 years to 5.5%. That has slowed down the labor market. And because of slowing down the labor market, we are getting constant revisions on previous months to the downside. So when I just said, hey guys, we added 140,000 jobs, the market's kind of like, did we? Did we? Did we? And how many of those were government? Oh, 30, 40,000 were government jobs. Okay. So the government's just like, the government's just pumping money. Do we even trust that the government actually added those jobs? And so whether you believe in it or not, whether you think it's fake news or fake data, at the end of the day, the market does not have a firm grasp on what's happening right now. And I think that's why the market is really scared based on some of the earnings results or based on some of the market reaction that we've seen in the face of good earnings results. I mean, NVIDIA put up 100% year-over-year growth, $30 billion in 90 days, down 15% off of those numbers. And they guided for $32.5 billion more of revenue. Why are they down 15%? The market cannot afford or rationalize paying a 46 forward PE. Now their forward PE is 37 if they think we are headed into a recession, which begs the existential question. Do we cut rates by 25 or 50? Let me know in the chat what you think, 25 or 50. I have a unique perspective on this now that has changed over the past 10 hours based on looking at some of this data. Before I give my perspective on 25 or 50, this is what Tom Lee put out today in terms of his notes. So this is one of the 5 worst ever starts for September since 1928. It's been a very long time. I mean, it's been almost 100 years since we've been covering the markets from the S&P's perspective, and this is one of the 5 worst starts. I mean, it puts it into perspective. That's why when Tom Lee says, "Hey, the market's front running the bearishness," because September is always historically bearish, that's what he means. You don't have negative 4% for the week. You have negative 4% for the month. The last 4 years, 2020 or 2019 all the way to 2023, we've had negative 4.5% on average for September. We just had negative 4% in a week. And so to put it in perspective, that's why he thinks there's a reason we should be buying the dip right here. So first, he said the August jobs report was good enough. The percentage of industries adding jobs rose by 53%. By the way, the labor force participation did not go down either. It was 62.7% for the past couple months. And the August CPI report is next week and should be confirming inflation falling probably to 2.7 or 2.8%. Gas, where I live in New Jersey, is now at $2.93 a gallon. It very much seems like energy is going to push inflation down, and the Fed will begin cutting on September 18th. But this has not stopped the selling, and some of the reasons for that. A, the yen is rallying today. Let's see where the yen is right now. I thought I was done talking about the yen a month ago, but we are back to it. Yeah, this is the yen at 142. This is not good. You don't want to see the yen to go down. You want to see the yen to go up. Why? Because people are shorting the yen, and to short the yen, you want the yen to be higher because you're getting a better return for your short. As it goes down, that means the value of the yen goes up, the strength against the dollar goes down, or the strength against the yen for the dollar goes up. That means the dollar goes down against the yen, and that means people have to end up selling some of their assets, aka unwinding the carry trade, which is obviously bad for U.S. equities because then they have to pay back the loan on the short that they have for the yen. So A, that was not good this morning. B, the yen rally impacts global liquidity. C, second, the odds of a 50 basis point cut fell to 27%. They were actually at 64% yesterday. Now they're at 27%. And that rose to 65%, but since it has turned down. So his bottom line is, even if we are cautious about the next 8 weeks, to us, stocks are at the lower end of the range and we see more upside than downside. And the reason for that is because stocks are already down in the first week of September, the most that they've been down for the entire month of September over the past 4 years. All of that to say, I believe, Amit, that was a fine example of fast talk. And I'm not trying to show off, okay? It would be easier for me to fill up time by talking slow. I just want to make sure you guys are getting enough value here. I believe we're getting 50 bips. I think 25 bips is stupid. I think 25 bips doesn't make any sense. Now, why am I saying that? By the way, I don't think we're going to get 50 bips. I want 50 bips. I think J Powell's still going to be slow to the party. Fed President Goolsbee and the other one today, Wallard, basically came out and said, hey, the market is literally the labor market is actually slowing down and we need to take dramatic measures. Bostic also said this yesterday in the video that he uploaded and the note that he put on the Atlanta Fed website. All of them are acknowledging that the fight against inflation is not finished, but it is significantly done with, and that we need to focus on the other part of the dual mandate that the Fed has, which is maximum employment. Well, we're only adding 100,000 jobs a month, if you even believe we're getting to 100,000. So if we start getting to the point where we're adding 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, we are in a full-on hiring recession, and that's going to affect company earnings because if people don't have a job, they can't spend money. No one can buy a Starbucks coffee for $7 if they don't have a job. Now, you will have one segment of the consumer population in America that's going to buy that Starbucks coffee no matter what, but they're going to take on a lot of credit debt to do that, or they're going to have enough money where they can afford to do that, but that's not the majority of consumers in America. So the consumer health is contingent upon the unemployment rate, and unfortunately, if unemployment is going up, then we're not going to have earnings growth in Meta, Google, Amazon, because people are just not going to be spending as much. That means we need to aggressively start cutting. But if we admit that we messed up, aka the Fed admits, hey, we got to do 50 because we should have done 25 in July, like Goolsbee was saying, but we didn't end up doing it. Now the market's like, oh, well, we're in a recession. And the reason we're in a recession is because if the Fed's doing 50 versus 25, the Fed's basically admitted that they've lost they've lost the plot. This is exactly what happened in 2022. What happened in 2022? We started raising by 75, 75, 75. Why? Because inflation hit 10%. It was like 9.93. And the Fed was at, like, we can't turn into Venezuela or Zimbabwe that has 6,753% inflation. That's an accurate number, by the way. I think they have a lot of inflation. And so the point is, if they have so much inflation, you don't want that to happen in the United States. You got to aggressively raise rates. Well, what happens if the labor market starts aggressively cooling down? You got to aggressively cut rates. But what happened in 2022 when we aggressively raised rates? The market fell. Could that happen in 2024, 2025? Could the market fall if we aggressively cut rates? I guess we're going to end up seeing what happens. So there's a lot that's going on in this market, but ultimately, I think earnings growth is going to determine everything, and earnings growth can't keep up if we have massive unemployment. But right now, I think no one knows if we actually have this much unemployment. Like, no one knows. Given the fact that the numbers were revised, even it shocked me, dude. Like, the fact that the numbers were revised as aggressively as they were, like, instead of adding 114,000 jobs in July, we added 89,000. Like, where did those 30,000 jobs go? And I know the BLS, I want to give them some sympathy here because it's hard to track these numbers. It's not like it's easy, but also it's like we're living in the 21st century. Like tracking these types of numbers should not be as difficult as you know, the market ends up, or at least the BLS makes it, but I guess it is. And so from that, the market's really going to have to figure out how we're pricing in these job numbers and what it's going to mean for the broader market. Let's get some more coverage on the stock market, what's going on, and then we'll go deeper into some other macro issues going on today.
Pretty positive on the markets. Just what Tom, the case that he made, does that make sense to you?
I like to make a habit on the show of disagreeing with everything everybody says. Tom knows that very well. I agree with almost everything he said.
But what is this then in the market? What is it? Is it just a growth scare and this too shall pass?
My old friend Nate Rogoff used to say sometimes stocks go up and sometimes stocks go down. And we're in one of those periods where after a terrific rally, certainly after what happened with Japan, stocks are correcting somewhat, not unjustifiably so. We've had a good rally, but I will echo a point that Tom made on the political front. Tom talked about Trump's odds in the polls. On September 15th, the date of September 15th was the day that the odds of Trump winning the overall election hit its peak. The stock market today, the stock market subsequently peaked on July 16th, the next day. We have not made a new high since then. So I'm not making the whole stock markets at the whim of political polls, but I think given the tax implications of the TCJA, of unrealized gains, et cetera, there's probably something going on in markets right now that does have a political tilt to it.
We think there's going to be, Court, much more volatility, if nothing else, between now and election day, which is 60 days away.
There can be. I mean, we've had a pretty unvolatile year this year, like historically speaking, and especially as you lead up to an election, you can see some volatility because we're kind of at that stage in the election cycle where both candidates are going to have these grand ideas of what they want to do and these changes they want to make. But realistically, a lot of that's going to get watered down, whoever does get in office, which is why you get some volatility with nervousness as you lead up to the election. But regardless of who wins the election, it does tend to be a good thing for the stock markets over the long run. So I think if there's volatility, you want to take advantage of that as a buying opportunity. It's not something you want to get out of. And I'm hearing that a lot from clients. Like, should I get out till the election? No, you just want to use these opportunities if they arise.
I agree as well. Let me know in the chat if you agree or disagree with her. But I don't think getting out of the markets based on election volatility is ever a smart thing to do. I mean, maybe it works out in a certain swing trade scenario, but I think trying to time based on if Trump or Kamala wins, it's a tough thing. Because if Trump wins, the market has to price in tariffs. If Kamala wins, the market has to price in higher taxes. It's not like it's definitive yet. We don't know. I mean, some people think the market wants Trump, which is very possible. But if he wins, you never know how the market's going to interpret that. So I think trying to get it in and out based on the election is not the easiest thing to do.
Happens, Dan, if everything that the three of you say is correct. And this is just a growth scare. Things are going to be just fine. But the price is still wrong of the market, that earnings are not going to be as robust as the market would like to believe, even if we have a soft landing, and therefore the price is wrong. And that's what is being recalibrated as we speak.
Well, listen, I'm not going to break any news by saying if the price is wrong, stocks will go down. I think what we would argue and have been arguing and are arguing is that the price is right. I was asked the other day about is the market incorrectly pricing in a soft landing or something like that. But when you look at the data in front of you, we're, at least for now, we're getting it. It's happening. Unemployment's going up a little bit. Some of it is the immigration story. Some of it is people are losing their jobs. Wages are coming a bit off the boil. Companies are telling you consumers, particularly in the packaged goods space, have had enough of increased prices. So some of the consumer confidence. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, but largely speaking, it's commensurate with a slowdown off an extremely accelerated economy in the back half of last year. And just on that front, I would just note for the viewer at home who hears all the time, the economy's slowing, the economy's slowing. The economy slowed in the middle of 2006. Stocks didn't go, stocks went on to make a new high into the end of 07. Obviously something happened afterwards, but in the interim, stocks went higher. Stocks slowed down in the middle of 2012, in the end of 2012. 2013, for any of us that were there, was a phenomenal year for stocks on the back of that slowdown. Just because the economy slows down doesn't mean the stock market has to necessarily slow down. They don't automatically go together.
Nobody passed out, Tom, the handbook that says, hey, this is step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 of what the soft landing looks and feels like. So we're not exactly sure what to make of the little softer report here, maybe a little stronger report there, another softer one here. We're jumping to conclusions, figuring that maybe the soft landing story is in doubt.
That's right. I think there is soft landing fears, but I think the bigger fear would be a credit event. I just don't think there's a lot of leverage in corporates. We know household leverage and debt service ratios are still 40% below they were at the last cycle peak. So I think there's a lot of room for credit to expand, and capital spending has been muted. So to me, I think the soft landing still has a lot more arguments versus a hard landing, which is, we've overspent.
What about the buy the dip idea, Court? Tom says, I wouldn't sell tech. likes a lot of these other parts of the market, as you clearly heard, even suggesting, these tech stocks are attractive with this sell-off.
Yeah, and I mean, I do agree with that because I think when you look at even in the earnings growth with the Mag 7, you're still seeing robust growth there, but I don't know if it's going to necessarily keep up with some of those underperformers. Like you brought up small caps, and I actually do agree with this, where when you look at Q3, Q4 earnings, those are actually likely going to be accelerating at a faster pace in some of these other areas of the market. So a lot of people, I mean, I would say probably 90% of the people who come to us within the last year are much more overexposed to tech than they even realize, because say, oh, I have NVIDIA and I have Apple and Google, but I also have this growth fund and this tech fund. It's all owning the same thing. You own way too much of it. You just want to make sure with new money you're adding, just make sure you're better diversified, because if the rally broadens, you want to take advantage of the broad rally, not just the Mag 7.
Let me also say about NVIDIA and those stocks, like, what are you supposed to pay for a stock that's growing revenue at 400%, growing net income and EPS at 300, whatever the exact numbers are, at multiple 100%? What are you supposed to pay for that? And that, obviously, Google has some regulatory issues right now, and Apple is sort of an island unto itself from the growth standpoint. But for the rest of those names, Microsoft, et cetera, what are you supposed to pay for those stocks? They're supposed to trade at a premium. And to Tom's point, again, for the millionth time, we're not a particularly large tech investor, but when those stocks sell off, so when you're trading at 30 or 40 times forward in the case of some of these names, you're going to get 8, 10, 30% drops. It doesn't mean the fundamental story for them has changed. And more importantly, Tom makes we've all made this point a zillion times, but Tom brought it up again. The rest of the market, not screamingly unattractive, certainly in an environment where the economy still continues to grow. And most importantly, we haven't mentioned it once, amazingly 17 minutes into the show, the Fed's about to reduce interest rates for, to borrow a phrase from The Bachelorette, the right reasons, hopefully, as opposed to the wrong reasons.
So I agree largely with that summary right there. Tech is incredibly volatile, but tech deserves a premium because they actually grow, they compound, free cash flows are incredible, and they are able to return money back to shareholders in a pretty incredible way via share buybacks, at least the large cap 7. So the question then becomes, how do you deal with the volatility? And I think the question on the answer to how to deal with that question is asking, why are we having volatility? So if NVIDIA is falling 15% after showing some of the best numbers that we've seen on an earnings call out of all the companies that have reported in the S&P 500, then it's maybe because there's buyer fatigue. It's maybe algorithmic. It's maybe some people just want to secure their profits, because if you're a fund manager and you got NVIDIA at $40, $50 average in the beginning of the year, you're saying, hey, I'm up more than 100%. I should take some of these profits and give it back to my clients so they can give me more money to manage next year. And I can at least lock in this win versus have the risk of NVIDIA or Tesla or Amazon falling another 10, 20% in case something happens. And then my returns aren't as good. If you are definitively beating the S&P 500 this year, I think your biggest stress, the biggest stress you have is, can I protect those gains? Because if I can't protect those gains, then obviously, it just ends up being a year that you end up hating, even though it was a year that you ended up doing really well. And here's a question that's really interesting as well. Let me ask this question, and then I want to get to a couple other headlines that I'm looking at. I'll be interested to see what people say on this. Palantir poll right now, we have 50-50. Wow, 1,700 votes, 50-50, yes or no? So literally still 50-50. We'll have that poll up for the next hour. Would you rather sell the bottom or buy the top? Sell the bottom or buy the top? I saw this question yesterday, and I thought it's a hell of a question. Would you sell the bottom or buy the top? Both suck. I've been in both situations, selling the bottom or buying the top. What would you rather do? I think there's some logic to one of them that's better than the other, but I'm curious what people think and what your logic is as well. Because that's what I think a lot of fund managers that are managing money are also trying to deal with. They're saying, hey, is this the top? And if I buy, am I buying the top? Even though obviously the top was in July, but if they think the market's really about to fall, then maybe this is another short-term top. Or a lot of fund managers are saying, hey, NVIDIA's at 100. This thing is where it was at post-split. Actually, it's down $20 from where it was post-split. Why the hell am I selling this? Because this is the bottom. And I think those two questions are really weighing on investors right now in terms of figuring out what they're doing. Okay, most of you are saying buying the top. Most of you are saying buying the top. I kind of agree. I agree with buy the top, because at the end of the day, you can always DCA, right? And you can get it to come back down. But chasing as it runs up when you sell the bottom, it always feels horrible. Like a lot of people here bought Palantir, like myself, in that high 20 range in 2021. And then it came down. And when it got to 6, it was just buying more. And that was the bottom, right? And logically, I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to find out sometimes, all right, the stock's down 85%, the company's still executing, they're doing the right things. They're not a perfect company, but it's not like this is a company that's going to go bankrupt. And so from that perspective, it's kind of a little bit easier for me to buy the top and then just keep buying all the way down. Speaking of tech volatility, what's also very interesting about this is Palantir right here at $30.34. One of the things he just said on CNBC is that in these tech names, two things. A, they command a premium for a reason. B, you have to deal with the volatility of the premium that they command. So Palantir right here is trading at 30 times price to sales, is trading at 178 PE and a forward PE of 91. Obviously, the market is giving them a premium. And the question today is going to be answered in the next 45 minutes. Is that premium only because the market is anticipating some type of S&P inclusionary event, which would drive the stock higher? Why? Because fund managers would now have to buy in to get a piece of Palantir in the S&P 500. Or is there reaccelerating government growth, reaccelerating commercial growth? AIP boot camps are scaling in a fantastic way. Alex Karp, one of the best CEOs of our lifetime, in my opinion, someone who for some reason was excluded off of the Times 100 most influential people in the AI list, but that's another conversation for another day. And the overall company itself is an AI SaaS that in the world of SaaS, we've seen companies like Snowflake which hit a 52-week low today at 108. We've seen companies like C3 AI that it was up 1% today, but it was down 20% for the week. These are companies that have said, hey, we're going to dramatically grow, and their growth rates have not lived up to the expectations that they've given to investors, proving AI has not been a catalyst. Same thing for companies like Salesforce, MongoDB, etc. Different companies, different industries, but if the market wants AI and the market is concerned that traditional software as a service can be commoditized via AI, then the only one giving you that AI SaaS growth, like actual revenue reacceleration at almost 30%, is Palantir. That doesn't mean we won't have volatility in Palantir. That doesn't mean we won't have 10, 20, 30% drawdowns. It's just I feel so greedy as a shareholder because for the past 5 weeks, we have not dealt with any real volatility in Palantir. I mean, really, what was the volatility? 32.75 to 29.84. Like if you've been in Palantir for the past couple of years, you've really felt volatility. The past 5 weeks, as the market has been volatile, Palantir has not been volatile. I mean, even today, ending above $30 while the Nasdaq's down 3%. So I think from that perspective, we're going to see how the market prices in inclusion or non-inclusion in about 45 minutes. But the strength of Palantir based on its core fundamentals is to me the reason why it's gained this premium, not the potential of the S&P 500 inclusion. But in 45 minutes, we'll find out if that is going to end up being the case. 5:15 for those that are wondering when we're going to get that S&P 500 news. We got Gergevin. He has his tweet ready to go. This is funny. I will say, dude, so there's one guy on Twitter that called the CrowdStrike introduction into the S&P 500. And today he tweeted that he thinks Palantir is going to get into the S&P 500. It's like those videos that CNN and Fox News were like, this guy predicted the election winner for the past what is it, five decades or whatever, and they're like, here's his opinion on Trump or Kamala. It kind of felt like this. This is my boy Gene sent this to me today. So this guy on Twitter, he's the one he called CrowdStrike before getting into the S&P. Here's his tweet: Palantir to S&P, I think. It's like, maybe, dude, maybe. But everyone, whether you're, a big account on Twitter, small account on Twitter, you're covering the markets, you're not covering the markets, everyone's looking at the price action and they're all thinking, hey, this might be the time. Like, this was not the energy in June. In June, after AIPCon, I remember I was in the San Francisco airport and I got the update and it was CrowdStrike, GoDaddy, and KKR. And it was no Palantir. But the vibes didn't feel like it was going to be Palantir. Today, the vibes feel like it's going to be Palantir, even though it might not be Palantir. But the vibes are definitely there. And it kind of feels like maybe it might end up happening. Crossroads says, I'm calling Dell, Workday, maybe Trade Desk. Okay, so this is a good time to look at the companies over the past couple of weeks or the past couple of months that have been included and excluded. So additions to the S&P 500, CrowdStrike, GoDaddy, KKR, Vistra, GE Veranova, Solvitum, Super Microcomputer, and Deckers. Now, what's really interesting about two of the names that got included out of all these names right here? SMCI is down like 60%. CrowdStrike's now down 35%. SMCI failed to deliver a basic 10K form. CrowdStrike had a global IT outage. that cost companies billions of dollars. I'm just saying that if the S&P 500 committee knew, I mean, if SMCI fell 70% and based on failing to file a form today and they weren't in the S&P 500, would the S&P 500 be like, hey, they should definitely be in? If CrowdStrike had that global outage and wasn't in the S&P 500 today, if they were being considered, do you think the S&P 500 committee would be like, well, yeah, CrowdStrike, that's an amazing cybersecurity company that didn't have a crazy global outage. We should definitely let them in. I think they would be doing some double thinking. And so the companies that they have allowed into the S&P 500 have had massive screw ups and obviously probably in a nutshell didn't deserve that type of honor, just given the fact of how badly they messed up. Not saying companies can't mess up, but you would think a company like Palantir is in the top 500 companies in the United States of America and broadly the world, given what they're actually doing in the enterprise and given the actual numbers that they're putting up. Companies that were removed, Whirlpool, Zion Bank Corporation, Illumina, all of these different companies that just didn't end up making the balances anymore. They ended up getting removed. Two companies that are in the S&P 500 right now that I think can get removed, Intel and Walgreens. Walgreens is at I think it's like 30-year low or something like that. Which has been a horrible disaster of a company. And the stock prices reflected that. And then Intel, obviously, you know, they've had their fair share of mistakes, and now they're consulting with investment bankers to figure out what they should do. So I think some of those companies, you know, might end up getting out of the S&P 500, but you can't tell me Intel deserves to be in the top 500 companies in America and Palantir doesn't. And so I think if it's not this quarter, it's going to be eventual, hopefully in 2025, if we don't get it now. I think this is the last rebalance for the year because it is getting to the point where it's pretty obvious Palantir now at 6 quarters of GAAP profitability and Palantir actually having an AI thematic relevance that the committee cares about. I mean, they care about the most important companies, and the most important companies in this day and age are actually navigating and operationalizing AI. You would think in that committee, hopefully they're having some discussions on Palantir. So we will see. We will see in the next 20 minutes or 30 minutes. 5:15, John, 5:15. For those that are just tuning in, we will find out. And we will see what ends up happening. Paper says Walgreens is going to get delisted altogether, brother. No reason to go to a drugstore in general anymore. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, look, there's a lot. I was at a Walgreens the other day. Their foot traffic is starting to slow down. I actually lived near a Walgreens when I was growing up, when we lived in apartments. So I used to go to Walgreens a lot. It's just not the same company. The other thing about Walgreens is in 2013, they had a massive screw up. They partnered with Theranos to do the machine that would take your blood sample and tell you if you have like cancers, diabetes, and all this stuff. And somehow Walgreens leadership got Elizabeth Holmes to get those machines into all of those stores in Arizona. That was their test pilot. And some people ended up finding out they have this horrible disease. They were freaking out. Turns out the machine was fake. It couldn't read your blood and tell you anything. And so when you think of those kind of operational leadership mistakes that the company has made over the past couple of years, you start realizing maybe that's why, you know, things started going downhill in terms of their inability to actually get things together. Let's get an update from Morgan Stanley and see what they have to say as well about this economic data. Again, at 5, we will officially be getting the inclusion news and see what ends up playing out. Here we go.
In fact, in about a year and a half, NASDAQ taking it on the chin today. It's on track for its worst week since January of 22. Joining me now, Post 9, Morgan Stanley's Chris Toomey. Welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, what's your take?
You know, look, last time we were here, economic number was kind of in Goldilocks view situation, which was giving the Fed exactly what it wanted to do. What we saw was a situation where prices had gotten way ahead of themselves. We thought we were probably experiencing a situation where something was going to have to pull this back. You know, we got a bad employment number at the beginning of August. Then we got some decent numbers in between. But I think the big thing that's changed is bad news is bad news, right? Like it used to be bad news is good news. Now bad news is bad news. And the other thing is good news is not great news. So good news is now bad news, right? So you had...
Is good news bad news? And I would take issue in even some respects that what we've gotten is quote unquote bad news. We're acting as if the economy is in some tailspin. The data would suggest otherwise.
I think the data is, if you look at earnings are actually okay, right? The Mag 7 numbers, the most recent one, was actually not bad. I mean, the question is that, everything is priced to perfection. And if it's not great, it's got to be bad. The employment number today, you've got Steve Leisman on all the time. He looked at it first thing and he said, it's not bad, right? But the market's acting like it's horrible. And so I would say the economic data is not bad. I think the economic data is fine. I think the pricing was off, right? So the pricing's come back.
I don't even know if the market is taking it like, oh, the data was so bad. I think we're starting to get into a conversation as to whether the Fed is going to blow it or whether they already did.
No doubt, right? Because, I mean, the thing is, we're in a situation where they've kind of threaded the needle here with regards to kind of moderating growth, bringing down inflation, raising up unemployment, and the market's been doing well. But the problem is that, we're at an elevated place for rates. We were just in a period where we had 15 years of zero interest rate environment, and there's about a 6-month drag before they start cutting rates, right? And so you're in a situation where markets are priced for perfection. They're expecting the Fed to continue to be able to defy gravity, and maybe that's not going to happen. And so that has to be priced into the market.
All right, so we recalibrate. We need to recalibrate.
I agree with what he's saying here, and I agree with the fact that companies do need to have a little bit of a correction in valuations, which is fair. It just means that if we have good earnings growth, then those corrections end up being decent opportunities. Here's what Fed President Waller said. By the way, Bitcoin and Ethereum and Dogecoin are collapsing right now. Bitcoin is very close to being at $52,000. Bitcoin for the week, it's down 9%. For the month, it's down 5%. For the day, it's down 6.25%. For the past 3 months, it's down 23%. It's been a tough couple months for Bitcoin. So President Waller said it's important to start rate cutting process at the next meeting, basically saying, hey, it's time to cut rates. And then he says the first cut will not be the last. This rate cutting cycle is going to be really important. And to kind of summarize why everyone is so obsessed with the Fed, including myself, in 2020 and 2021, we printed $7 to $11 trillion. That money was inevitably going to cause inflation. It caused inflation in 2021, but it was small. It was slow. You could start seeing it a little bit in the grocery store in the price of bread, price of milk, price of laptops, but it wasn't so extreme to the point where consumers were refusing to still buy products. The Fed saw this, and Jay Powell says inflation is transitory. And when he said inflation was transitory, his basic argument was, hey, we don't need to raise rates. We just got through a pandemic. We need to continue to allow maximum employment. If we raise rates, that's going to limit economic activity, and that's going to be bad ultimately for the economy, because inflation doesn't matter right now, given we need to care more about the economy. Inflation is quote unquote transitory. Then inflation ends up, Bitcoin just fell below 53,000. Then inflation ends up not being transitory. Inflation ends up being a monster. And by June of 2022, a year later, we have inflation it was reported 9.3%. It was probably closer to 12, 13, 14%, given how inflation spiked up. Then the Fed, which ends up being late, and we know what happened in 2022, the market crashed, NASDAQ fell 35%, Palantir fell 80%. A lot of our portfolios were in the dumps. Then the Fed says we're going to start raising rates, and they aggressively raised rates for the next 12 months. They stopped in July of 2023, but as they were raising those rates so aggressively, we had a lot of pain. We had pain in the housing market. We had pain in the equity markets. We had a lot of pain in the crypto markets because crypto ends up following the equity markets. And in general, companies had a harder time to do business. Banks, Silicon Valley Bank literally collapsed because they loaned out a ton of loans before the Fed raised rates aggressively. So they were underwater on all those loans. They ended up basically getting margin called when people started taking their money back from the bank. And then boom, that bank goes under. We go through an entire bank collapse, Credit Suisse, all this stuff ends up happening. So the reason why everyone's obsessed with the Fed, the reason why everyone's obsessed with 25 bips or 50 bips or what's the jobs number, all this like nerdy shit that none of us should care about, quite frankly. like none of our friends care about the federal funds rate. None of our friends care about the August non-farm payrolls. Like no one that we really know in our life outside of this like community we've built actually gives a shit about any of this stuff. But we do. And the reason we do is because we're investors and we're trying to compound our money in an aggressive way over time and reach a level of financial independence. Well, to do that, we need to cooperate with the Fed. It's like being a YouTuber. Like you can't just be a YouTuber and just like upload videos. You have to cooperate with the YouTube algorithm. You have to know that, hey, like the algorithm wants certain things. You have to engage in a certain way. If you start cursing left and right, YouTube's going to de-rank you because they don't want you cursing all the time. These are parts of the game you just have to play in order to continue to grow. And same thing in the markets. We have to care about how the Fed engages with 50 or 25 or what Jay Powell says or what this random dude named Goolsbee gets up on CNBC. And we have to start listening to him and take him seriously because he has a vote on the committee. He determines a lot of things. So my point is, if the Fed does 25, the market might interpret that as, okay, we're beginning a rate cutting cycle. We haven't lost. When the Fed did 75, when Jay Powell did 75 3 times in a row, the market undoubtedly said we freaking lost. We lost. The Fed messed up on inflation, and now we're trying to play catch up. If the Fed does 50, the question by the Fed is, or by the question by the market is going to be, did we lose? Is 50 so aggressive to the point where the Fed is admitting, hey, we kept rates up for way too long, even though inflation was obviously falling, and now we're going to play catch up by cutting aggressively? Historically, when you've cut aggressively, June 2007, December 2000, market ends up crashing. And so I think that's the existential question right now. And we're going to have to figure out what ends up happening. And the market's going to have to figure that out over the next few weeks. Here is JP Morgan's analysis on what they think the Fed should do. They're a little bit more bearish on 50, and they're going to kind of hypercharge this claim around why 25 would be more appropriate.
Jobs number this morning. We're always pleased to be welcomed by David Kelly, JP Morgan Asset Management Chief Global Strategist. David, welcome. Good to see you. I was thinking, as Sarah mentioned, that the period last couple of years where the revisions were consistently up. Mm-hmm. Now we're in a period where they're consistently down. Does that move the needle directionally for the Fed?
Well, I hope the Fed realizes where we are. I mean, what we're doing is we're just settling in to a slower expansion. That's all that's going on here. There's nothing in the data here which rings any alarm bells which says recession. But psychologically, the economy is sort of in a delicate position here, because if the Fed were to panic and cut 50 basis points, then suddenly people would start pulling back, and that's the danger. And that's why I think it is so important for them just to go 25.
So you think 50 would be self-fulfilling in some ways?
Oh yeah, and I think in fact that's really the problem. It's a very delicate thing bringing down interest rates, because if you bring them down quickly, the psychological negative of doing that probably overwhelms any positive from actually a lower cost of borrowing money.
On the other hand, they are worried about it getting worse. And if we are seeing a soft landing, then, you know, there's a line from a soft landing to something worse. Yeah. You know, more deterioration into a recession. And if they are seeing their policy as over tightening at this point, why not just go a little bit bigger and start the process?
Because this economy runs on confidence. And what you've got to do is maintain that confidence. And the message from the Federal Reserve should be, yep, the economy is very healthy. I mean, it's kind of like my doctor. These days when I see my doctor, he says, "You look like you're in great health for a man your age." it's like this expansion is in good health for an expansion its age. But we're going to print a CPI number next week, which I think is going to be 2.6% year over year. We've got a 4.2% unemployment rate. You add those two numbers together, that's better than the combination has been 85% of the time in the last 50 years. There's nothing wrong with the economy. And I think the most important thing for the Federal Reserve to say is, look, it's the problems underneath in different groups, but overall the macro picture is pretty good, and the Federal Reserve just wants, or should want, just to sustain it.
So playing around with theories, our friend Mark Dow suggests they go 25 and they can tolerate a descent for 50. Would that make sense?
Yeah, well, of course they can tolerate a descent. I think that I will say one thing that Jay Powell's done very well is he tends to poll all the members. He tends to try to argue and see if they can get them all together. And I don't think there's anybody in the committee who's going to be so strong in favor of 50 to really push the needle. So I'd actually be surprised if we got a dissent. I think we'll get 25 across the board. And I think that's what he's arguing for right now.
It's almost more important what he signals going forward, because the market still prices in 100 basis points by the end of the year. So is the market going to be disappointed if they just do a few 25s?
I think the funny thing is, I think the market will be relieved. The bond market might be disappointed, but I think in general, the economy and the stock market will be relieved. If the Federal Reserve can say 25 basis points, we think the economy is fundamentally healthy, but there is no call for monetary restraint right now. We're going to gradually ease rates back to normal. That is a very positive message for the market. So I want the bond market to be disappointed.
David, important day. Appreciate it as always, coming in, helping us understand the numbers. Thanks.
Sure.
I agree with that to an extent. I kind of think it should be 50. I get his argument, though, that if you do 50, the market's going to get upset and you're going to admit defeat. I also kind of think the market should stop, freaking out so much. If we need to do 50, then let's do 50. So a lot of this is all based on narrative volatility and perception of narratives that's going to drive the market higher or lower, at least in the short term, before we get into Q3 earnings, which is going to happen in October. And that narrative is anyone's guess in terms of what ends up being the narrative of the markets. But in a few weeks after we get the first rate cut, whether it's 25 or 50, we will figure out what narrative ends up being the mainstream. 5:15 is the S&P 500 announcement. So about 30 minutes we got until we figure out if Palantir is in the S&P 500. Here's another update from today. Money market funds have $6.3 trillion now on the sidelines. Institutional money market funds are $3.7 trillion. This is your Googles and Amazons of the world putting some money in money market funds. Retail, people like you and I, have $2.5 trillion in money market funds. So the broader question here now is, wait a second, we have never had a point in history, at least not in the modern era, where money market funds have been able to give you such a amazing return for doing nothing. If you have, a couple $1 million, just getting 5% on that is not a bad deal. As you can see right here, over the past 10 years, money market funds averaged 2 to 4 trillion from 2014 all the way till 2019. And then after COVID and stimulus printing, now we're up all the way here to around 6.3, 6.4 trillion. If the Fed cuts by 100 bips, even 25 bips, maybe 50 bips, is that enough to get people to think, hey, this is not enough yield on my cash, I need to invest it in something that is more important? Remember, if you're getting 5.5% on your money and you're losing 2.9 because of top line inflation, you're not actually getting 5.5%, right? So the question is now, if you're only getting 4% or 4.75 and you're losing 2.3%, like what is your actual return on those money market funds? And that's a question that I think everyone's trying to figure out right now, or at least they will be thinking of more deeply when the Fed ultimately cuts rates. S&P 500 falling another 1/3% after hours. Wow. I'm getting a headline right now. This has officially been the worst day for the stock market based on the math of the S&P and the NASDAQ falling in 2024. The worst day in 2024. It's aggressive. It's an aggressive day on a Friday, September 6th. We see this type of pain. Snowflake down after hours. Palantir down a little bit, but still holding $30.29. NVIDIA down another 1/3% after hours. Bitcoin barely holding on to 53,000. Hasn't touched 52 yet. I mean, I think it touched it for like 2 seconds, but still going down. SMCI down another 0.5%. Google, wow. Google falling another 0.5% is pretty. I mean, again, 1% on these large caps is still a lot of market cap that's being erased away. IWM, big disappointment today as well, down about 2%. Tesla, it was up almost 15% for the week. Now it's up about 5%, down 8.45% on the day. Broadcom falling another 0.5% after hours. Meta officially below 500 after hours. After hours itself is as bad as a bloodbath as we saw this morning with the S&P down about 1/3% as well. All right, folks, we have about 20 minutes until we figure out if Palantir gets included or excluded from the S&P 500. Let me bring on a guest to join us, break down what's going to happen and his thoughts on the implications of what might happen or not. You may know him from the Palantir weekly show that we do that will be live again today, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ladies and gentlemen, the managing partner at Maddie Capital, Matt Farley.
How we doing? Is this a good looks convention or is this a stock show?
Oh, that's why I invited you, man. We have to have you here.
How are things?
Things are good. Give me your raw reaction. Let's get right into it. Don't even think about it. Yes or no? Do we get into the S&P 500? Gut feeling. Just say it.
Maybe this is hopium, but I'm saying yes.
You're saying yes, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, why?
I think it's hopium though. Now that I say it, I feel like I'm gonna get crucified.
Are you saying that because you don't want to be the wheel because there's people here, or are you saying that because you actually believe it?
I want it to happen. I mean, I think it's honestly, I think Palantir is a great company. I've been following it for the past almost 9 years, 7, 8, 9 years, somewhere around there, and they've earned it, in my opinion. I think the only mark against it is maybe the lack of underlying operating income. They do have a lot of income coming from the net income margin from the cash on hand, and so I think that might be.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think that might be the only piece that they might say, are they ready yet? Because the last thing they want is a company to come in, have a bad quarter, and immediately be negative in terms of earnings. But
So
I
hold on,
think
let me-
Palantir is a very different company. So
Let me break that down, because I think that's a really good point. Your argument is, hey guys, remember, Palantir's GAAP profitability for the last 6 quarters has only been because we have $4 billion in cash that we're throwing in T-bills. And so the money we're getting from that, I think 40, 50 million, that's what's allowing us to be net income positive. So S&P accepts us. We have a crappy quarter, because that happens to every company. And maybe we reverse, not on the GAAP profitability, but the net income goes down 1 quarter, and that reverses the trend. And now the committee thinks, hey, why did we let these guys in if they were only profitable based on their cash, not based on their actual business of operations?
yeah, I mean, I don't know how much due diligence these guys actually do, right? I'm not at the table. I'm a firm believer. I think Palantir is a great company. Do I think it's a little bit overvalued at $30? $70 billion market cap, of course. But I could be eating my hat in 3 years if growth actually goes back to the mid 30s, right? So I think you're kind of in a pivotal point. Third quarter and fourth quarter will tell whether that $30 valuation is warranted. But I love the company. I use the company. Everybody that I've met from the company is an absolute rock star, and I don't really have a bad word to say about anything about the company, and I just happen to own the stock.
Yeah, I just asked Perplexity who's in the committee, and it cannot give me an answer. So AI doesn't know who's in the committee. So we don't really know, right? This could be a bunch of this reminds me of the Grammys, right?
Yeah.
I think in 2012, it was obvious Kendrick Lamar should have won Best Hip Hop Album for Good Kid, Mad City. And Macklemore, the guy who made the Thrift Shop song, ended up winning Best Rap Album. Great song, great pop song, but in terms of hip hop, it just wasn't a better album than Good Kid, Mad City. But you had a bunch of people in the Grammy committee that kind of just went off the trends, and they said, hey, this is a popular rap song. This should be the best rap album. Maybe that ends up being the case here for Palantir as well.
I hope, man. I mean, I don't know who else are we competing against. I forget what the list was. It was like Dell, and a few others, right?
Yeah,
Dell's a great company, but I mean, are they going to be as innovative going forward as Palantir? I don't know.
Yeah, it's Dell, Workday, Robinhood actually might have a chance to get in. I think they're a little too early though.
Well, how would you feel if Palantir got in over Robinhood? Because I know Robinhood's your baby.
Oh, I would, yeah, but Palantir would be. I mean, look, Robinhood doesn't deserve it. Yeah, they've only had a couple quarters of GAAP profitability, and their importance in the broader, world is not as important as Palantir. I think for Robinhood, at a $20 billion market cap, it would be awesome. But Palantir needs it to legitimize their standing as the most expensive software name. Like CrowdStrike, they've been expensive since IPO, but the market kept giving them this crazy premium because they kept growing at top line 34, 35% ARR. Even this quarter, they grew at 32%. But then they had that outage. But when they got in on June 5th, it kind of really legitimized that CrowdStrike is the leader in cybersecurity. And then they messed it up on July 19th. But I think Palantir needs this to be more legitimate.
Yeah.
At least perceptually.
And I wanted to touch on something because I heard you say earlier, and I've heard a few others say the same, but that because it's below a 50, 60% institutional ownership, you think it's going to be stretched to get into the S&P. I don't think as many companies, and I don't know. This is me speculating, and I'm kind of fishing here. I don't know if a lot of companies have as much founder ownership as Palantir does. And so some people say that might be also a reason why they wouldn't want or they wouldn't give Palantir the love they deserve, is because those F-class shares. But I don't know if I don't know how much insider ownership there really is, but I know Peter owns quite a bit. And
he owns about 140 million shares.
Yeah. So
that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
What is 140 million? I guess it's like 4 or 5% of the company.
Yeah, roundabout 4 or 5.
And I don't know how much Karp owns, but he owns over $1 billion worth. So
you start 63 million shares. Yeah.
Yeah. So you start adding up, all the founders and everything of the like. It's probably in the tens of percentage points. And so that might be the difference between retail, institutional ownership, and then insider ownership that people might be the difference. I don't know.
So this is a letter. I want to reread this for everybody that came out April 29th, 2023, on what Karp said when the letter's called the S&P 500. This is what he had to say during that time. Some of the most significant technology companies ever created have been built and led by founders. The market understands that this is anything but an accident. The retention of control and therefore freedom is crafting the shape of an enterprise, commercial or otherwise, and often what enables an organization to construct something consequential in the face of doubt and even dissent. We have built software platforms for defense and intelligence agencies across the United States and around the world, including for military partners operating on the front lines of the war in Europe. Our work can be controversial, but we have beliefs and we will stand by them and our partners when it advances our interests and when it does not. The concentration of control over any enterprise does have risks, but some degree of insulation from the outside world is often necessary in order to build something differentiated and lasting. The company that determines the composition of the S&P 500, an index of arguably the most prominent and significant corporate enterprises in the United States and by extension the world, decided this week, April 2023, that companies such as ours, whose founders retain effective control of the corporation through a separate class of shares, aka F-class shares, are now eligible for inclusion. The shift is a consequential one, not only for the market, but for the country. It will help encourage and enable technology firms in the United States to preserve their independence and therefore retain their advantage. We believe that the full impact and significance of this change will reveal itself over time. So Palantir wasn't even allowed to get in till last year. And now, because the committee changed how we should value founder class shares along with their GAAP profitability, they have the chance to potentially get in. We got two more guests joining us today to cover Palantir's potential inclusion. Emir from Palantir Weekly, that you all probably know, and good friend of the channel, Steven Fiorillo.
The guy in the lower left is really the reason why you were like, oh, if Matt's around, I'm going to join. I'm like, you know what? I need to see this big dick bastard in person.
Oh, okay. All right. Steven, hello.
Hey, folks.
Amir,
Hey, Amir.
what's up?
I'm here to share my expertise on stock price movement. I happen to be something of an expert on the topic, so happy you'll have me.
Okay. Anyway, Amir, you are a Palantir investor. You're wearing a Palantir hat. Steve, you've been covering Palantir for a long time. Let me start with Steve. Raw thoughts, Steve. Yes or no? Do we get into the S&P 500?
It's probably going to be no, but I want it to be a yes.
Okay. Explain your logic.
Because my day cannot go good for some reason. So it is just, not going to happen. Look, there's every reason it should get in. I mean, what's the real reason is that, like I said to you on the phone, you have a 67 billion market cap, so market cap's there. You have profitability for how many straight quarters is it on net? Seven straight quarters.
7 in November. Yep.
So going on 2 years when they report again of profitability on the bottom line. So there's really no reason. And to say that the percentage of institutional ownership is a reason that they don't get in, I would like to see who they put in above it. And we can analyze where they are on all these other things. But it would be crazy at this point for them not to get in.
Okay. Amir, your thoughts. Do we get in? Yes or no?
Well, I would say this is the first time they're actually eligible for it, because despite being net profitable, they weren't operationally profitable. So a lot of it was due to interest and stuff like that. And now they've been operationally profitable for...
Whoa.
Hello. Yes.
No, he's right about that, Steve. We did not have income from operations profitability, I think, for the past 4 quarters.
All that matters is GAAP.
Yeah, but this is the conversation.
All that matters is GAAP.
That's not the committee might not care about that.
So why are they not inside S&P 500? And obviously it goes before a committee.
What the requirements are.
It
doesn't matter where the profitability comes from.
I understand. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. No. Yes. But the committee
it goes before a committee, and they evaluate. And if I was on that committee, I would look at something like that. No, I understand that the criteria is not outlined that way. So you have a point there. But still, when they're evaluating different businesses, that would be one of the things that I would look at. And if we go to the prior committee decision, when was that?
June.
Yeah, June. they hadn't reported Q2 yet, so now we have a full trailing 12 months of operational profitability that they can rely on. So I would say that's probably what I would look at.
This is
terms
the
of
third quarter we've had trailing 12 on operational profitability. We've had operational income since March of 23, which is Q1 of 23.
Yeah, but we might not have been full on profitable in a uptrend without the treasury income. Oh, I get your point, Steve, but if this is subjective based on the committee.
If you want to talk about operational income, they've been
Q1 of
operationally
2023.
profitable since Q1 23. You want to talk about net income, they've been profitable since Q4 2022. Pick your poison. Those are the facts.
Okay, well, obviously you don't need me here for my opinion because so
this is what Steve does, Emir. He causes chaos. That's what he does every
Battle Royale.
I have the numbers in front of me.
Yeah,
look, the point is
you are correct. You are correct. As of Q1, they had 1% operational profitability, and when you put that against a bunch of different companies, well, it might not be the strongest case for inclusion. Anyway, I would say that they have a strong case this time. I'm not quite sure how the opposition looks, but I would expect at least during this year sometime. But I don't really get the S&P 500 inclusion hype and the implications, really. I think people really want it. I know I was on Tom Nash's show a while back, and he was like really hyped to get up the institutional ownership. And when I asked him, why do you want that? He's like, well, it's going to be less volatile with higher institutional ownership. And I don't think that's the case at all. I think, if anything, it will be more volatile when we think about all these short-term dumps of stock when we see specific headlines and stuff like that. So I'm not really sure. Well, we do get steady inflows from net inflows from indices, but I haven't really read a credible study on the actual implications on market cap over time from that. We know that obviously it should be positive. I just don't know how much. So more or less, it's just a short-term catalyst and not much more. So I'm not really too excited about it, but I'm curious to see what will happen if we're going to be included or not, and the results of that. Because obviously, last time we saw which were the three companies that got included.
It was KKR, GoDaddy, and CrowdStrike. But Emir, the point you're making, I think it's less about if Palantir goes to $40 or something. I think it's about the prestige and honor of being in the top 500 companies of America. I think that's what I care about. I care less about the implication of the market cap. I care about that honor. And I think it also means that other ETFs, because Palantir is really not in a ton of ETFs, start to look at them and say, hey, why don't we have more Palantir? We have Amazon, we have Google, we have all these companies, we have CrowdStrike. Why don't we have a leader in AI software as a service, which is Palantir?
And you have some of the largest ETFs in the world forced to buy it.
And some of them are forced to buy it, correct.
Do you think that it might help with sales? Because Karp has spoken about just being profitable, being a big driver in sales, that you can be credible to the client. So do you think saying that, well, we're part of the S&P 500, do you think that might help? Or is or is Palantir just so established now that it doesn't really matter?
No, I think, listen, anything can help. So being able to say that you're a member of the S&P 500 is just one more thing that they can say. It's definitely not a negative.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, this is one of the most important things that could happen for the company. Is it going to happen today? I don't know, but it would be nice to see if it does happen. Here was Karp about 4 quarters ago talking when they became, I think, 5 quarters in a row of having GAAP profits around the demand that they're seeing.
We don't know how to deal actually with this demand. And so we're rebuilding the company. We don't know how to deal actually with this demand. And so we're rebuilding the company. We have a lot of employees in Germany and France. I'm telling them it's time to pack up and come to America. I'm telling our hiring, we are hiring here. We are having, as I mentioned, a bonanza in people wanting to work here because people are, quite frankly, tired of working for people who seemingly only have an opinion when it doesn't matter and with products that may not work. We're looking at, I'm getting personally involved in the recruiting again to get more people, but exactly the right people. And we're going to scale against the demand, but it's a real thing.
What do you guys think about that demand argument that he's making? And do you think that has any implication on the S&P 500 thinking more deeply about a company like Palantir? Emir?
Well, I'm not quite sure. If we look at bookings, then we've had 4 consecutive quarters of growth. So that's like stable and stay. I don't know. It's hard to gauge demand, especially when we don't know the conversion rates of anything, or we don't have complete picture of their main go-to sales strategy right now, which is bootcamp. So it's kind of hard to tell. But it's definitely, if Karp says it, then I'm inclined to believe him on the demand side. And we do know they are limited in how many bootcamps they can run, as we've discussed many times before. Luckily, I've seen on LinkedIn that consultants are getting involved now for a while now to run their own bootcamp. So yeah, maybe they found a way to deal with it. And I'm inclined to believe Karp in the demand story.
Steve, then we'll go to Matt. Steve, your thoughts on demand kind of being a leading indicator for potential inclusion?
I mean, I don't know what the committee really looks at, and I don't know how a committee can really forecast out for every company what their future demand is. You can only go by what they're saying on the most recent quarterly report. I don't know if that's a great way. I'm not on the committee, so I have no idea what they look at, but I'm going through what the actual inclusion is. At this point, it would be crazy if they don't get in. And I'd be very interested to see what gets in over it.
Matt, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Mr. Patel and I were talking about this the other day around companies that will just explode their headcount and try to increase their revenue at the same time. And I think what we saw 18 to 24 months ago at Palantir was a strategic shift of focusing on not only continuing to grow, but also making sure that they stabilize headcount, and they've actually reduced headcount in 2024 comparatively to 2023, which I think is pretty impressive. And I think the reason being for that was to get to GAAP profitability faster, right? I think in all reality, I think that there was a component of Palantir having the ability to maintain 20% growth instead of dipping into the teens had they just continued to increase headcount. But I think where they're at is they want to continue to show the model that they are an efficient organization. They're here to stay. They're building something for the long term, and they're not going to just blow it up like what we've seen with Snowflake and many other companies that are trying to continue to just grow at all costs, right? They're doing growth, but at a conscious manner. Honestly, I think that's a double-edged sword. I think what they did was they took the opportunity early to get to profitability, just to continue to get the clients that may have been more higher quality through the door. I think that they stated that in several quarters ago that, and I think Emir touched on this briefly, that they basically wanted to show, hey, we're a profitable company, we're not going anywhere. Now they can get back to reaccelerating that top line growth piece. So I'm not 100% certain as to what they're looking for in terms of the committee, but I don't know. Interesting times.
You know, it's kind of insane. Last time we looked at this, and obviously at the time, none of us, me, you, Arnie, I think Matt was also there, none of us really knew how it really works. But if Palantir was to be included, they would be in the top 100 of the S&P 500 by market cap. Mm-hmm. And the weighting would imply, if you look at the total assets under management for like the S&P 500 indices, it would mean something like 20 to 30 billion increase in market cap for Palantir just by the weighting. Obviously, it's not like they just dump that because it would be like an infinity loop. But just in terms of inflows over time, it would be something like 20 to 30 billion at the time. And now, obviously, Palantir is larger. So I don't know if where they would place, but still, it would be in the top 100 of the S&P 500.
Yeah, and that also makes me, I think that makes us all healthily skeptical, because does it deserve it yet? And I think we all do from a qualitative perspective. From a numerical perspective, it brings up the question, are the numbers matching it? Steve, any companies you said you were just looking at that surprised you around this S&P 500 thing for why Palantir is not in?
I mean, I don't even know who's on deck. I was looking at the companies you had on the screen that previously got in.
Yeah. And you couldn't believe those companies. What is your point?
No, that's not. No. So a lot of those make sense. Like, I've never heard of some of these. Like, I've never heard of Deck before. But
Decker's a shoe brand.
Yeah. never heard of that. Decker's Outdoor, never heard of that. But KKR, I'm surprised wasn't in the S&P, to be honest with you.
Okay, let me ask you this question.
GoDaddy? I mean, how is GoDaddy not a part of the S&P?
I didn't even know GoDaddy was still a thing, dude. Like, I didn't know website domain hosting.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, how much do they actually make? I haven't looked at that company, but
where's their margin?
Must be some pretty insane margins just selling domains.
$20 billion company. Wow, this is not a huge company.
What are the margins for that
they've been
business?
consistently profitable.
Yeah, that's fair. But is it one of the top 500 companies in the United States of America? GoDaddy? I don't know.
I did want to ask this. I mean, I think you brought it up earlier, Amit, but now that we have the four of us here, do we, if we don't get it, do we see a sell-off in the stock?
Good question.
Why would anybody sell because it doesn't get it? If you're investing because you think it's going to get an S&P, you're crazy.
So the theory my friend had yesterday is that the only reason we've been holding 30, which is a pretty expensive premium for Palantir, is because the market thinks it's going to get in, and so they front ran the inclusion. I disagree. But if we see a 20% sell-off, which would be ridiculous, I don't think that's going to happen, just based on not getting in, then it would prove that the market.
I don't necessarily think that. I mean, we keep going back to this, like, I don't want to say institutional ownership piece, but if you look at the amount of ownership that Vanguard, BlackRock, et cetera have, it's comparable to most of the companies that are in the S&P. So I don't think that would be a holdup, personally, for it. Like, let me just pull it up really quick. So the institutional ownership is.
By the way, real quick, Matt, the website is down, folks. So it looks like it's not going to be 515. The website is down. Go ahead.
So Vanguard currently owns 200 million shares, 9.5%. BlackRock currently owns 119 shares, comparable approximately to Peter Thiel, which is about 5.5%. State Street, which is another one of those big companies you would expect, owns about 2%. Then you have Renaissance, which is Jim Simmons, RIP. That's just under 2%. Geode Capital. The only one that I'm not really seeing is what's the other one big company that you always generally see?
BlackRock, Vanguard,
State Street.
State Street, yeah.
I feel like there's a fourth one, isn't there? Always.
Not sure, actually.
Okay. But anyway, I saw that the other day, and I was rather surprised that Vanguard actually owned 9.5% of the company.
Emir, do you think the stock tanks if we don't get in?
Probably. I'm more inclined with your friend. If you look at what Palantir has done today within like a sea of blood in the streets, I wouldn't be surprised. I still think that Palantir is fairly valued here. So I personally don't really care what it does, more than if it presents me an opportunity, if it would tank. But I think that, it's the market is probably pricing in some expectations, specifically today, when you look at the rest of the stocks in the market. So I think your friend, whoever he might be, could be correct on that one.
Yeah, I think we could see. Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
If you look at institutional ownership for CrowdStrike since they got in last quarter, it's pretty much the same. So Vanguard.
That's my point. That's my point. They already had a high. No, that's my point. They already had a high level before they got in.
I don't think that that's going to be a red flag by any means.
The site is crashed, folks, so we don't have the numbers yet. I'm sorry, or the results. Site is crashed. It's going to probably take 5 minutes because everyone's refreshing. But we'll know pretty soon, and we'll see.
The real question is, how excited are you?
I mean, dude, if we get in, it's going to be fun. It's going to be really fun. Just like covering the stock, covering the company. It's been a long journey. Going from a $6 stock that everyone thought Snowflake was the ultimate competitor to, that was way better, to being in the S&P 500. Like,
I was going to ask the question: at what point do we buy the melting ice cube?
Oh, Snowflake. I don't think ever, to be honest.
When it gets to 40,
maybe if it gets to 40. But I think all eyes are on this company to see if they can get in. I also think it would be big for the employees. At the end of the day, we're investing in people. Like, those people have been. Oh, it's up. They've been dedicating their life to it, So
somebody just said Palantir is in.
Hold on. Palantir's up. Oh my God. I think we got in. Folks.
Wow.
Did we just get in?
6% up. It's 6% up on that.
Let's fucking go. Oh,
Did it really just get in?
I
want to
folks.
see it on my screen,
I
but the
think
stock is
it's a
reacting.
4% after hours. Okay, but did we
The
get in
stock
yet?
is
Does anyone have
reacting,
the
but I want
exact
to see it.
number?
I mean, multiple sites are saying it's up 4.5% right now.
It's up 4%, folks. I mean, why else would it be up 4%? There's no way other than we got in. No one has the confirmation yet. No, I don't have it on Twitter. Holy shit. If we got in, congrats to shareholders for Palantir.
Is this just anticipation that we got in, or do we?
No, we're up
actually-
8%, dude. This doesn't happen unless you get in. This doesn't
I
happen.
feel like I don't know. I don't believe it until I see it. I'm with Emir.
Yeah,
because it's running. It's up 6%.
This is what happened to CrowdStrike last time.
Can't wait to sell covered calls tomorrow.
Well, tomorrow's Saturday, but
fuck.
Guys, I think we got in. I think my friend bought 300,000 shares at $30 yesterday.
Refresh the S&P site.
He just it's Steve. I've been refreshing it for 20 minutes. It's not working. That's like obviously I'm refreshing it.
It's not working because you're refreshing it along with everyone else.
Wait, Dell and Palantir.
Does anybody in the
Dell
chat
and
have a
Palantir?
Bloomberg terminal?
Guys, there's no way we're not. This is not a fake pump. Like, there's no fucking way, dude. We got in. There, we have to be in. Holy shit! I don't have the exact.
I'm so glad Amit didn't see the comment on YouTube about pulling up the cowbell. I'm so glad I don't have to hear that.
Come on. Let's see. I don't have the exact picture yet. No one has the picture. People are saying it's included, but it's not officially in yet. Everyone's just tweeting it, but no one has the confirmation yet. I need the actual confirmation.
That's all it means, right? Whoever tweets it first is most important.
Well, that's why I'm not tweeting it.
You just delete it if it's wrong.
No, well, yeah.
Of course. Why would people that work in Morgan Stanley be in the office at 5:18 on a Friday?
Fuck, the website's still not loading. Palantir, Dell, Erie, Indemnity to join S&P. That's by Bloomberg. I'm trusting you, Charles. I'm really fucking trusting you that you're right on this comment.
Charles is trolling the shit out of you guys.
Hold on. No, Dell is up 7%. No, guys, I think we got in. Dell's up 5% right now. Come on, bro. Come on.
What's this Erie?
No news site has it up. I've checked.
What is Erie Indemnity? What the hell is that?
I don't know, but I'm going full port on Monday.
Guys, I still don't want to like full on freak out yet because we don't have confirmation on my screen by any real source.
I mean, where is this news coming
from right now? Erie's also up 5.5%.
I'm gonna see what they're talking about on CNBC. Oh, I can't log in. My phone.
No, let me check CNBC. Let me check. Maybe CNBC. That's a good point. Maybe they have it. Holy crap! Oh my god.
They haven't pulled it.
God, 3,000 people joined a bit stream just to see him shit the bed and not have the data.
Yeah, CNBC's talking about Apple. Why are they talking about Apple? We need some potassium, folks. We need some bananas. We need to be talking about
hey, somebody just said that they're in front of something about Bloomberg terminal. It said
Matthias makes a good point. Bloomberg was wrong about the subpoena on NVIDIA.
True.
That's a good point. Bloomberg was wrong about that. Guys, I'm sorry. I can't confirm it yet. Palantir's at 32.50 though. Dude, there's no fucking way we didn't get in, dude. It's up 7.5%. Come on, bro. There's no way.
Man, I'm glad I don't have calls expiring today.
Oh my god.
Can you imagine somebody's like, "Oh, dude, we closed below 30.50. That's dope." And then they have the S&P 500 inclusion, their shares get called away.
Dude, we have to be in. It's obvious, but we need the fucking. Okay, so a bunch of people are tweeting Palantir, Dell, and Erie Indemnity. So it's not just people in the chat. I'm pretty sure we made it, dude.
You missed your opportunity to engagement farm and being first.
It's okay. I'd rather be accurate. I'd rather be accurate than I still haven't tweeted yet. I want to tweet it, but I'm not doing it until I legit can see that it happened.
Good. I'm proud of you.
Can someone send me a link to the press release that Bloomberg or not Bloomberg, the S&P committee usually puts out if they have it?
Or can somebody take a screenshot of a Bloomberg terminal?
Yes, one or the other. Just tweet it at me on Twitter at Amit is investing, please.
Is Amit investing?
There's no way it's up. Wait, it's up 12%. No, it's up. There's no way it's up 7% and it didn't get in. Like, why would it go up 7%? Like, Matt, did you buy a fucking 100,000 shares? There's no way. Like,
your boy ain't got that kind of.
Palantir wouldn't put it on their IR because I don't think Palantir knows before they get in. They would maybe do this on Monday. Yeah, it's not on their website either. Oh my God, we just need the confirmation and then we can have fun. Then we can party.
I don't know. I've checked Barron's, WSJ, CNBC, Bloomberg, like the site. And
I'm pretty sure we're in because the people saying the same three companies wouldn't be saying the same three companies over and over. But we need the confirmation.
Yeah, I mean, I if you were to put a gun to my head, it does seem like it, but
Evan just tweeted. Evan said we're in. Yep, Evan, I'm pretty sure we're in. Evan just tweeted it that we're in. Unless Evan's trying to engagement farm. I'm pretty sure. Evan's one of the accounts I trust.
This information from?
Evan's a good friend of mine. He has a very good account.
Evan knows what he's doing.
Evan, I don't
he
think
seems credible.
I don't know if he has a terminal, but he's.
What does Gergavin say? Gergavin's got a Bloomberg terminal.
Yeah, if Gergavin tweets, I forgot he has a terminal. So
where's Mitch Kavin at when you need him?
Like I called 2 people and texted 2 people. Nobody is in front of their terminals.
Okay, guys, I have an idea. Everyone in this live stream, just PayPal me, and I'll buy a license. I'll buy a
isn't Emir rich? He's got like
I don't have
3,000 people watching a day.
25,000 a year for Bloomberg, bro. That's not the type of money I have yet.
Just imagine how great. Exactly.
It's
you got people leaving the stream, Emir.
Guys, we're up 7.1%. There's no way we did not get in to the S&P 500. I want to start analyzing what this means, but I need the confirmation.
Steve, how does it feel to be wrong?
Listen, I really hope we get in. That'd be great.
Dude, I'm pretty sure we're in. This is stupid. Like, I'm pretty.
I gotta go buy a steak.
My friend bought 370,000 shares yesterday at $30. That means he's up a decent amount right now. $2 a share. He's up a decent amount.
He owes us a terminal, I think.
Definitely got a terminal.
I should be getting a text from him soon. Dude, that's why it stayed green the whole fucking day when the market was red. There's no other reason.
I'm sure during the weekly Arnie will mention this, but he also made a trade on inclusion. He bought a lot of shares today.
Charles said he sent it to me. Oh, we're in, folks. We're in. We are officially in the S&P 500 Palantir Technologies. This has been a long fucking journey. We are here in the S&P 500, folks.
Pretty dope.
About time, huh?
Congrats, everybody. That's absolutely phenomenal.
Shout out to Charles. Thank you so much, Charles. Thank you for this DM. Shout out to Charles Collins in the chat. We are officially in, folks. We are in. We are in.
To bed now.
How do we feel? Like, let's go around the room. Steve, your thoughts. How do you feel?
I'm pretty fucking happy right now. This is fucking great.
We are in the S&P. That's the confirmation right there. Bloomberg terminal. Emir, give me your thoughts. How do you feel?
You know, I'm really excited because it will be an opportunity for me to learn about the implications of inclusion, because I've never studied a company under like active inclusion before. So it's going to be interesting and just a learning experience for myself. As for the stock itself, I don't really care either or, but great for the short term for sure.
A lot of buying is going to happen over the next month.
Yeah. Is it almost at 33? That's crazy. So I will say, I mean, everybody's
guys, we're at a 52-week high, 32.80, 52-week high.
Everybody's relationship with the company is different, right? But I think this is pretty insane to me because I been working with the company now for quite some time, and I always was just like, these guys are so unique. And I saw something even before they went public. And, to be able to sit there on a train coming back from Trinidad, I was riding the train from JFK to Jamaica Station and it went through. I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to I don't know. I put in a limit order for $10. It's like, I don't know if this is going to go through. $10,000 was a lot of money for me in 2020 when it went public. I was just like, I fulfilled my promise. Even if I lose $10,000, I said I fulfilled my promise to those guys because I always told them, you know, it's like, you guys are so cool. You guys know what you're doing. I don't want to just be a stakeholder in your guys' success. I want to be a shareholder in your guys' success. And so I kept my promise, and I've only increased my share count, 400% since then. And to be able to see this, a short 4 years later, almost to the day, is pretty insane.
So think about this.
Go ahead, Steve.
Palantir is going to be around the 136th largest company in the S&P.
Oh my God.
Give or take. Because PNC is at $70.24 billion. They're ranked 136th. So
Yeah,
Palantir is coming around there.
When I checked, they don't really reorder them, so it's kind of messed up. A stock can be higher even though the market cap is lower. So we'll see. It's interesting. But did you guys see who got deleted? Etsy, isn't that kind of favorite among a lot of people?
Etsy deserved to be deleted, dude. Etsy was not.
I know that Meet Kevin is really big on that one and shielded to his viewership. So
to that individual who wrote a super chat, your $31 covered calls, technically it goes out until Saturday morning, so it's based off of what it closes at tonight. So hopefully, for your sake, it pulls back, but I don't think it will. So it seems like your shares are going to get called away, my friend.
Yeah, unfortunately, dude, I wouldn't have sold covered calls right before inclusion.
No, especially think about this. So SPY is probably the most recognizable S&P index fund for ETFs. Their assets under management are $553 billion. Then you got VOO. Assets under management are $1.2 trillion with a T. And then you got IVV, which is the iShares one. And then you start getting into mutual funds, which are much more common in retirement accounts. There is going to be a lot of forced institutional buying over the next several months when they start rebalancing.
American Airlines also got out, by the way.
Understandable.
Huh.
This is going to be big for buying shares.
Let's
Steven, what's the sum of those three?
What do you say?
What's the sum of those assets just from the top three? The iShares.
So VOO is 1.2 trillion. SPY was, what was it? 553. So you're at like 1.7 trillion there, and then IVV is another 500 billion. So you're at 2.2 trillion or so.
Okay,
just between those three.
The weighting should be around 0.2%. So what's that if we just take the allocation that they should deserve according to that? Just those three.
I mean, why give a fake number? Let's get a calculator out.
Not good with math.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to screw up the decimal point in my head. How about that?
So 0.2, it should be like 5 billion or something like that. Of 2.3 trillion, is that what you said? Roughly. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know how it works. It obviously just doesn't get dumped into the stock immediately when they rebalance. I'm not sure how the flow works, but yeah, over time, with that specific weighting, it should mean something like 5 billion over time in net inflow.
48 billion.
Okay, I
forgot the zero. Good.
That's why I didn't want to do it in my head, because I knew I was going to forget zero.
Yeah, hold on, it's on CNBC. Let's get CNBC in upright this. Then I'll give my.
Pretty insane, man. It feels really surreal.
It feels surreal. It feels legit surreal. Are they talking about it yet?
I feel like this is the only time.
Only time I've been happy in my life now.
Well, yeah, I don't have anything else. This is it. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank God Chris Patel got rid of his short position.
Oh man, can we call Chris?
Let's call Chris live. You got to call Chris. You said we were going to do that.
First of all, okay, so outside CNBC doesn't have it yet, but I have a couple things to say. First of all, shout out to Steve, because last night I was on the phone with Steve. I was like, dude, I don't know. He was like, you got to think happy, be happy, have happy thoughts. Steve, I think you manifested this, to be honest. So thank you to Steve for having the good thoughts. Second of all, I'll have a lot to say in the next coming days, but the main thing on my mind is I can think of no other company that actually stands up for what they believe in a world where all of these companies don't give a shit about anything they actually say. They care about these social issues, but they really don't care about it. They're doing it for profits. Palantir, whether you agree with them, you disagree with them, Karp is an authentic mother effer, and he'll say what he wants to say, and he'll make the company focus and oriented around that mindset. And that's why they deserve this. You can complain about valuation, all that stuff, but they deserve to be in the top 500 companies in America, because in America, we are having I would argue, crusade on the idea of just believing in something. There's so much compulsion to believe in different things and different narratives and different ideologies and different dogmatisms. Palantir says, no, we're going to believe in what we believe. We're going to do this the right way. We're going to have F-class shares. We're going to go DPO. We're not going to give a fuck about what anyone thinks. We're going to make a product that's so valuable that it's going to sell itself, not hire people to take you to steak dinners to sell the product like every other SaaS company does. And that's why they deserve this.
And that's why the snowflake is melting.
And America. That's why the snowflake is melting.
That's why the snowflake is melting. And thank God Chris sold his short position. Get him on the phone.
8 per. I'm not going to call Chris. I mean,
he's probably sleeping.
He's probably sleeping.
What's that other stock doing? Both Dell and Palantir are up 7%. What's the other?
See, the thing about Dell, and Dell's an interesting company. We analyze it a lot.
Not Dell, the other one.
I'll check it in a second. But the thing about Dell is their operating margins are shit. So even if Dell's in the S&P 500, if they can't put up good operating margins in the next couple of quarters, this 7% is not going to last, right? Same thing with Palantir. If they can't put up 30% growth, I don't think this 8% pump is going to last. But I have much more faith that Palantir can reaccelerate growth than Dell can put up operating margins anytime soon.
At the 8%? Very least, it may make the floor rise.
It may make aftermarket purchases in Robinhood. Push that to 8%, Amit.
Yeah, I could. Emir, while I'm getting CNBC, can you find the ticker for this other company?
Erie, E-R-I-E.
E-R-I-E. Okay, hold on one second.
Never heard of that company.
Okay, hold on. We got CNBC. So let's get their coverage. Then I'll get Erie in a second. Oh boy, here we go, folks. If you're just joining, Palantir has been awarded a spot in the S&P 500.
The S&P 500. Julia Borson's got the details. Julia.
Hey, Melissa. Palantir, Dell, and Erie Indemnity are joining the S&P 500. This news sending these shares higher in after-hours trading. Now, these three companies are replacing American Airlines Group, Etsy, and Bio-Rad Laboratories in the S&P 500. American Airlines will replace Tegna in the S&P Midcap 400. Etsy will replace Haverty Furniture Companies in the S&P Small Cap 600. And Bio-Rad Labs replaced Erie Indemnity in the S&P Midcap 400. So you see those shares moving somewhat lower on the news, but it's really the three companies that are joining the S&P 500 where we're seeing those stocks spiking. Back over to you, Melissa.
Julia, thanks. Julia Borston. Palantir, too. You like that one?
I like it. I actually owned it until about 3 weeks ago. It had been an extraordinary run, and I actually just felt like it was time to take a breather. That was the wrong move. I mean, I sold it around 27, and I think it's going higher. I mean, we just got numbers from the company. I realize this fits under the category of a high multiple tech stock that really needs to support its earnings profile. It's a $70 billion company at this point that I think has some very sweet choice Fortune 500 companies. It's not just the government anymore in terms of those contracts. I think they are some of the smartest guys in the room at a time when we know this space has got everybody's attention.
So Dell's interesting to me because we've spent a lot of time. These are the servers that go into these data centers that are powering the testing of these large language models. And so again, this is a low margin business, and we think that there's going to be some pressure on this going forward. But here's the thing: when you have a stock up 7% on this announcement, these are not the indexers that have to put these stocks into the index, right? These are traders, suspecting that there's going to be a multi-week sort of process where these indexers have to buy them. So this sort of action is sometimes the sort of thing that you want to fade depending upon when they're going in. So I always find it a bit curious that these moves happen.
Coming up, crude oil cruise.
So funny. He what he said is like the typical Palantir story, right? Well, I sold it. I felt like it had to take a breather, and he got wrecked, man. That's the typical story we've been hearing since like 10. Every time it goes up, we lose some people. Like, well, it can't just keep going up. Well,
it's like me when I start talking fast on the stream. You just don't take a breath. You don't take a breather, dude. You keep fucking going. And they're showing right now that they can keep going. This is a big deal, dude. I can only imagine Karp and Cohen and Sham and Ted, all those guys
shaking hands.
You know what would make this day even
Strong
better?
handshake.
Go ahead, Steve.
If Carp went on Mad Money. That would just make this day so much better.
With a
And
fat cigar.
He's been begging Carp to come on too for like a minute, like like the past 12 months. It feels like he's been begging Carp to come on. But they mentioned something interesting there that it's important not to forget that people who are purchasing the stock now, it's not like the indices are rebalancing and putting Palantir in now. No, this is just people trading on the news, hoping, praying that. As he mentioned, the indices inflows are going to carry the stock upwards the coming few weeks. And I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, the stock going up on our screen right here, 7%, that's just fun for us to look at. No different than on earnings. If it goes up 5 or 10%, it's fun for us to engage in. But we know the company has to legitimately execute and the market has to perceive that execution as legitimate in order for the stock to like really pump like it has over the past year. So it's fun that the stock is up right now, but I think this is not about the stock. This is about the fact that the world is recognizing something that only retail investors like Steve, who's been writing articles, Emir in 2020, Matt, who was on the train buying $10,000 of this, me when it was $8 after I was down 50 grand on Palantir, buying another 100 shares, saying, fuck it, I'm already this deep. Let's go deeper. That's what she said. Anyway, I think the whole world is finally recognizing this company was legit.
There's less of a reason to say that this is a black box today more than ever, even though there's been no reason for a long time. Today, more than ever, should destroy that narrative where we never hear it again, even though we know we're going to hear it again. But this is just one more reason why that narrative is bullshit. And over the next couple of months, you're going to see a lot of inflows going into this company forced. And every 2 weeks going forward after the rebalance, as people put money into retirement accounts, this jump today could get sold off next week.
100%.
But long term, this is so powerful for the company because it is constant buying every 2 weeks on institutional basis from everybody that allocates capital to retirement funds. Because think about it, what are the most common retirement funds? Total market funds, S&P index funds, and target date funds. And target date funds are a combination of one of those two index funds traditionally and a bond portfolio. So this is very strong. And
it definitely should reduce the beta for sure.
Yeah, this may not make it pump to 40, but this will certainly drag the floor up and help reduce risk. I mean, this is phenomenal. Very exciting. And if we get a sell-off, I'm buying more.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Don't fire me up like that, Steven. Don't get me fired up.
If this gets a ridiculous sell-off, like there's some pretty big positions that are getting sold off. Instead, I'm going very deep.
I'm upset. I actually thought about buying a little bit more when it dipped below 30 today because I had a little bit of cash rolling around. I was like, I was like 10 years down the road, I'm going to wish I had more. And I was a big, I'll just call it big P because I've cursed already twice on the show and I don't want Amit to kick me off. But I was a big P and didn't buy.
I mean, well, you have a decent amount of shares though. My friend who just bought 300,000 shares yesterday, he said, well, I just made a quick million. So he just texted me that. Shout out to Psych Pilot for another 10 gifted. Dude, Psych has given like 20 gifted over the past 2 days. So thank you for another 10 gifted, Psych, but you don't have to do that. Thank you, sir. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you, Psych. And then
is he selling after hours or is he going to keep?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure he's going to keep it.
Are you
conference call is going to be like?
Are you offering anything to YouTube members?
Steven?
No.
If anybody from Palantir is listening,
there's no incentive besides giving YouTube 60% of that money. And
there's nothing you get for being a member of the channel other than supporting it. So thank you, Black Rose, for supporting it. And
memberships are a little bit better, Emir, than normal super chats.
Steve, what were you saying now?
If anybody from Palantir is listening, get Jocko Willink to be the host of the next earnings call, because that combined with the S&P inclusion will just make it fantastic.
For the next earnings call, they should have a hotline to Amit's live stream when he hosts that, and
100%.
the panel asks some questions. Because if you're not gonna have Wall Street sell side analysts on, then what's the point? Just release a letter or a video. At least get someone on, get Amit on to ask some questions, whatever. That's getting kind of tiring. I mean, it's a S&P 500 company now. What other S&P 500 company invites Dan Ives and Mariana and calls it a day? Come on, man. The fuck.
I agree, but at the end of the day, we got into the fucking S&P 500, and that's what matters. I think the other thing, Steve, that you said that's so important is that in 2020, in 2021, when we were engaging with this company, it was seen as a black box, right? Why are you laughing? What's so funny?
Sorry, I thought I muted myself. This chat is just out of control.
Okay, well, yeah. So everyone thought it was a black box, right? And that is why people like us who did due diligence ended up buying it, because we saw through the black box, but Wall Street did not. And I think your point, Steve, is that now the institutional flows that come in every 2 weeks to this company, you're going to have a lot of fund managers thinking, what the hell is Palantir? They're going to have to do some research because they're forced to buy it. And that will continue the narrative from the street of, hey, this is not a black box. This is a company that has a lot of benefits to it, a lot of potential to it, and maybe we should think of it differently.
The black box narrative was a cop-out to people who didn't want to do the work. That's all it was. This company's never been a black box. And the very easy answer to that is they can't talk about certain things that they do. Accept it. They told you what their platforms are. They tell you what their platforms actually do. They just can't discuss certain things that they do with the U.S. government. Get over it. You think Lockheed Martin or Raytheon or Boeing, maybe Boeing's not a great example these days, but do you think any of the defense contractors actually go out and tell everybody everything they do? No. So that black box theory was bullshit then. It's bullshit now. I mean, we've known since they went public that they had a commercial side business. Am I freezing? I thought you guys...
No, you're good. You're good.
So they had commercial side business. We continued quarter over quarter seeing who the new commercial clients were. We've had conferences live with them actually telling us what they utilize Palantir for. So anybody who has continuously said that Palantir is a black box either had a short position, didn't want to do the research, or just didn't know what they were talking about, because it's never been the case.
Yes, for those joining, I'll admit, tell them.
Yeah, dude. I mean, we were all here in May of 2022 and 2023. My format was videos. You and Steve and were more articles. Emir was on Twitter, but even just putting out an update on the Trafigura deal that they got, even though the stock was $8, or when they started working with Ukraine. These were things that just made people feel, oh, it's more of a black box. It's not really real. What is the company doing? But you and I and all of us were looking at these deals and we're like, no. There's a very significant value proposition to this deal. The stock is still stuck at $7, $8 like it was for about 24 months, but this deal matters. And I think you had to have a decent amount of insight to see that, which is the reason this is really fun is because that's the goal of investing, right? To see alpha where other people can't see it. Because if you buy it when everyone already sees it, your alpha is limited. When you buy it when everyone hates it, either you're going to be wrong and everyone hates it for a good reason, or you're going to be right and the rest of the world is wrong and people hate it for a reason that's stupid. You bought it for a reason that makes sense and you end up winning.
So Amit, think about it this way. Since they went public, we knew that they were a partner to Airbus. And I believe the platform is called Skywise.
Correct.
I could be incorrect. Is that correct? It's Skywise. So we knew that they were a critical aspect of the aviation industry. As they went public, we've known that they've been the backbone of certain industries. And we've known that they've been a partner of BP for a very long time. And we've known that they've been a partner of Kinder Morgan for a long time. And we've known that they've been a partner of Cisco Systems, and Cisco Systems representatives have gone to their conferences and talked about how they utilize Palantir. Same thing with Tyson Foods. Same thing with Jacobs and Hyundai Heavy, and that they are taking the Airbus model. This has never been a black box. I hate that argument. It drives me nuts. And the next person that says it, I think that they should just never talk about Palantir again because they really don't know what they're talking about.
I agree. Emir, any other thoughts on Palantir getting in? I know it's getting late where you at and you might want to go to sleep, but any final thoughts for you?
Yeah, I'm kind of dead. Nothing really to add. To be fair, I think it's been a while now since the media narrative has shifted on Palantir. You might see a comment here or there on various platforms, like uninformed comments referring to them as a black box. But as a whole, that narrative is luckily out the window now, is my experience. Like whenever it's covered on mainstream media, like they seem to actually have some sort of grasp of the company. And yeah, I think the S&P 500 inclusion is only going to accelerate people wanting to learn more about the company. And if you are to have a chance, Amit, to appear on something like a Yahoo Finance or some other show like that, finance related, I think your shot might be coming up now when they want to talk to some Palantir experts in the near term. So keep an eye out, Amit.
They're probably going to get Dan Ives on. And Dan Ives is about to have fun with this news, dude. Dan is about to have fun.
You should really tweet out the bear cave is what you should.
No, I don't, dude. When you win, this is what I learned from Palantir. When you win, you don't need to brag about it. You don't need to brag. So
the fact that he had the audacity to come on and not know what ontology is, come on.
Yeah, he's an idiot. But it is what it is. You don't need to.
At least do your research. If you want to form a bear case, I'm fine with that. There are companies that I think are overvalued. Other people think are undervalued. Everybody is entitled to their opinion, but at least form your opinion off of research. And when you try to debate that that Palantir is an AI imposter, but you don't know what ontology is, you lose all credibility. Just saying, do the research.
The interesting part was when he got pressed on it and he had to say like, well, what actually research did you what research did you do? He's like, well, I talked to some friends and put out this to my 100K newsletter. Like I talked to some friends and that's enough. I'm like, man, this guy is something else. Like, what the fuck? Anyway, guys, thank you so much for having me on. Great news. It's interesting to see how this develops the coming weeks, perhaps. Let's see. And congrats, everyone. Have a great evening.
Amir, are you joining us tonight for the weekly?
You are crazy to even suggest that I'm going to wake up in 3 hours. No.
Okay, so we're not going to see Amir tonight. Thank you, everybody. There's his Twitter. You guys can follow him. Bye, Amir.
Bye.
Okay, so I'm going to be on stream for a bit because this is my adrenaline. If I got off stream, I would be just jumping up and down. So I need to stay on and keep talking. You guys are welcome to stay and we can talk and keep talking about Palantir. If you have to go, then I understand. But I mean, this is really cool, dude. This is really fun.
I guess Ives was right that Palantir is the Messi of AI.
I guess Ives was right.
Ives was right.
Palantir gets into the S&P 500. Has been a lot of anticipation on the street, and the day has finally come as the Messi of AI is now at the center of the AI revolution.
That's insane, dude. I still can't believe it.
I still can't believe it either, dude. Steve's the only one who called this, to be honest. Everyone else, including myself, was a bit skeptical. Steve last night was like, nah, they're going to get in.
I was skeptical. I wanted it to happen, but I was skeptical.
But see, here's the thing. When you're a public figure, like I am, and you're talking, and you don't want to say something and get super bullish, because then if it doesn't happen, everyone feels let down. So you'd rather be a little bit more conservative. But then the bullish side of you is like, do I really want to be conservative right here? Like,
it's not about the bullish side. It's about what are the reasons that they wouldn't get in. And when you look at what the criteria is, it wouldn't make sense if they didn't get it.
So that's what I wrote on my my article on Daily Palantir 2 days ago when I sent it out. I said, like, everything makes sense except this one thing, which is institutional ownership. And in that article, I just said, hey, like, there is no reason, even the video I made, there's no reason I can fathom them not getting in outside of this one thing. But Steve, you correctly said today, that can't be enough.
Yeah, I don't believe it is enough, and it wasn't enough. I mean, look, institutional ownership will come as institutions are forced to buy.
I agree. Todd says Palantir is 98% of my life savings, and I'm thus loving retirement. Wow. This is awesome, dude.
Congratulations.
This is awesome.
That's insane.
Thank you.
I had that set of balls.
Thank you, Sean, for the 10 gifted memberships. Again, you guys don't have to do that. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you for the 10 gifted. I think a bunch of people in the chat probably got those gifted because it randomly gives it out. So thank you for that. How do you think management feels right now? What do you think they're going to say about
They
it?
got to be on top of the world.
I would imagine they're going to have some champagne tonight.
I think that they got to be on top of the world at the moment. This is a defining moment for the company. There was a lot of negativity. They got to be, and they deserve it. I mean, they deserve it. They should celebrate all weekend.
I think they should feel very validated. Carp and the team have done a phenomenal job since direct listing. And I feel like Wall Street has only given them negativity. And it's really only been the last 12 months where we've started to see, and I think a lot of it's led by Dan and a lot of it's led by other folks that have been really well respected on the street, to take Palantir underneath their wing to say, hey, like these guys are A-okay. And it really took the guys in Denver to really knock this one out of the park and say, hey, you guys can hate all you want, but we're here to stay, and we're actually here to deliver, and not only just change software as a service, but change AI and technology as a whole. Because I still don't think that people fully grasp the capability of what Palantir can do. And I'm really excited for people to finally see it. And I think that they've really just scratched the surface.
Technology doesn't go in reverse. So scratching the surface could actually be an understatement.
I agree. I have a friend who wants to join the stream. Yes, Holland, I'm sending you the link right now on Twitter. And you can join. Let me ask you guys this question. So Time Magazine puts out this list of the most.
Don't even address it. Don't even address it.
No, I want to get your thoughts. What do you think of Carp not being on this list?
I think it holds no weight, and the fact that there were some people on that list over Carp is crazy. Sorry, but how can Time put out this list and not have Alex Carp on it?
Yeah, I think it's pretty ridiculous. Chris CRM says in the chat, so many of us retailers were buying at 20 to 30 and all the way down into 5 and 7 on the way back up. Palantir leadership knows and respects that. I'm sure most have done in prior. Understand. Yeah, and Carp has, talked about retail investors being some of the most important investors in the company. Matt, your thoughts on Carp being snubbed from this list?
I mean, these days I don't trust it. Like you said, Elon's not even in there, right? And I made the joke that it's because he didn't make Waymo. But in reality, I mean, if Elon's not in there, if Carp's not in there, a lot of these things, like
actresses in there. How do you have actresses in there, not Elon or Carp?
Yeah, the thing that you said earlier, Amit, about Macklemore getting Album of the Year versus who was it?
Kendrick Lamar.
Kendrick Lamar. Thank you. It's the same exact thing, right? It's whoever has the space and visibility at the time. It's not necessarily, and sometimes I think some of these people get so rushed about putting out an edition about AI and a list of 100 people that they forget the obvious. And sometimes those people are the ones that are actually creating the industry.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, lists are stupid, and sometimes these lists in the mainstream media don't really mean anything, but
at least it wasn't a tech publication.
Yeah, it goes to show, though, like this whole black box narrative, maybe the committee who made the Time Magazine list didn't even think of Palantir because it wasn't on their radar. And I think that's the biggest problem for the past 2 years. Like when you think about NVIDIA, Tesla, all these like AI companies, you didn't think about Palantir. We thought about Palantir.
But hold on, didn't Palantir make the cover of Time for an AI narrative
in 2023?
So if they made the cover of Time in 2023 for an AI narrative, how do they leave them off this list and put actresses?
I have two answers. Number one, they didn't follow the company's progress from 2023 to 2024. Maybe thought they fell off. Number two, you had new people deciding that Anil Kapoor and Scarlett Johansson matters more than Alex Karp.
But what are they doing in AI?
I was confused as well, Steve.
I'm just saying, like they don't work at a software company. What are they doing at AI? Now, if you tell me that they're investing in AI startups, okay, maybe they do deserve to be on there. But
we got a tweet from Ted Marbury, who is the global head of commercial at Palantir. He just says, What index do you get to join if your company can scale? I love it. What index do you get to join if your company can scale?
Love that.
Oh, they're gonna have fun, dude. These guys are gonna have fun. I got the chance to meet Ted at AIPCon a couple months ago. He's such a smart guy, dude. Such a
Can I ask a very important question?
Yeah.
That I think both of you will entertain. At what point? So we're going to go through iterations, right? It used to be the MAGA stocks, and it used to be whatever it was, the FANG. Then it used to be, whatever it is. Now it's Magnificent Seven. When are we going to be talking about the iteration of when Palantir's in the top 10?
I think we're going to need at least $200 billion market cap, which is going to take some time.
But it's, you think about it, it's not that far away. You just need this thing to 2 or 3x, and it's getting to the point where it passes Broadcom.
No, it's not passing. Broadcom's at $700 billion. What are you talking about?
I know, but you know what I'm saying.
I think it's going to take some time, but it's a good question because the media still doesn't care about Palantir. CNBC maybe talks about them once a week, maybe if it's a good month, a couple times a month, but they don't talk about Palantir like they talk about the Mag 7. So to your point, those big elusive names, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, if Palantir was a $3 trillion company, yeah, they would be talking about them that much. But Palantir's probably going to be below, $250 billion, I would argue, for the next 5 years. It'll take some time.
Let me take a stab at that. It's not going to happen. And here's why. They don't have a consumer-facing product.
That's not necessary.
Every company in the Mag 7 has a consumer-facing product.
I agreed, but I made a video on this a couple weeks ago. I think Palantir is really fucking cool, and I think the cool.
Of course it is.
But that's my point. The Western values, AI, LLMs narrative is going to make the media want to cover them more, even if the general consumer doesn't know about Palantir. And I think that's going to create that effect Matt's talking about of like Mag 8, Mag 9 one day, where they're included with NVIDIA, Amazon, all those guys.
First, you got to get them to take over the narrative the way that Salesforce has done.
Correct.
And we could still be a ways off from that. And Salesforce doesn't have a consumer-facing product, but Dreamforce is a huge conference that everybody in the tech industry goes to. And Benioff is out there all the time. And their CRM tool is used by more companies than Palantir's products are. So they're going to have to scale and grow into some other areas to really even be considered into something, some type of acronym like that.
Yeah. I think the thing that it's very difficult to create a customized software for an individual at scale. And I think that's the beauty of Foundry, Gotham. So to me, I feel like if there is going to be some sort of consumer-facing product, it's going to be through another organization. So, for example, at it wasn't FounderCon, it was AIPCon, I think #2, where the Virginia government they hired a consultancy. I forget exactly who it was, but they had basically in AIP and in Foundry, they built basically a system that alerted people that they would be delayed by X, Y, and Z hours utilizing specific routes of the Virginia highway system. And it sent them text messages. So to me, that's consumer facing, right?
Right.
And to me, I think that it might not necessarily come at the lens of, say, an iPhone or using Google or something of the like, but I feel like that it will be consumer facing because all the businesses that they're selling to are consumer facing. I think that, if you think about it, like they're going to operate a lot like Microsoft. Like Microsoft, yes, they do sell cloud and things to the end user, but the majority of people, I mean, obviously we have the operating system they're using.
Be careful what you say right now.
Why? Am I going to get you angry about Microsoft?
No, just be careful what you say right now, because you're about to say something that I'm going to refute pretty hard.
Well, they do have a consumer-facing product, right? I'm using a Microsoft operating system myself, but I'd say the majority of the revenues from Microsoft likely come from businesses.
So despite where the majority, we could go into the breakdown of the revenue, but you have Office 365, you have
So can we stall this discussion, because I have a guest in the back. I want to get his thoughts
Sorry.
on this, and we'll talk about this consumer discussion.
Yeah, let me just switch it to one thing. The real question becomes, how does Palantir scale its revenue to where Salesforce is? Because right now on the TTM, Palantir is at 2.5 billion and Salesforce is at 36 billion. So
Okay,
the real
so we'll-
question is how they scale that.
All right, so we'll talk about that. Holland, what's up, man? How are you?
Nice
Hey, dudes. How's it going?
It's going well. Holland,
Congratulations.
can you introduce yourself to the stream? How long you've been investing, and what do you feel about this moment?
Yeah, I'm Holland. Y'all probably know me on Twitter as Psych Pilot.
You're the
Ahmed
guy
and I have
giving
been
all these
talking-
memberships every day, being a sugar daddy or something, just throwing this at me. So thank you for that. I appreciate it, man.
Trying to pump the channel, man.
I appreciate it, dude. Thank you so
You know
much.
what I mean? I want the channel to succeed. It's why I'm always harping on everyone on Twitter to try and follow each other and stuff. You know what I mean? So that we stake out our turf on social media. It can only benefit us.
How long have you been investing in Palantir?
Since about 3 months after the DPO. It was on my radar, and the problem was at that time, you know, I was doing a lot of swing trading, and things were doubling and tripling, and it was, you know, right about the time December, January, when we started really hitting some high points. So I just never got a chance to take a stab at it or look at it very in depth. And it went from like 9 into the 20s, and I saw it go into the 40s. This is right about the time of the GameStop rally. And I didn't start buying it until it came back down and went to the low 20s. So I guess that would have been maybe like February of 21. And
Okay, and why did you keep buying as it fell 80%?
Well, it's sort of like I told Arnie. I was trading still a lot of stuff. I was buying a lot of stuff as the market kind of gradually went down. And what just ended up happening is that the more I looked at it, the more I read about it, the stronger my conviction grew on it. And as it went down, I was buying less and less of other companies until, you know, Palantir at $14, $13, $12, I was only buying that. And this is my trading account, which is about, you know, 7-8% at any given time of my net worth. The rest of it is managed by someone, but I've ended up, and in no small part to Palantir, like 8xing that trading account over the last 4 years, which isn't bad.
So how do you feel about us getting into the S&P 500? What is your kind of gut reaction?
No, I wasn't holding my breath on it at all. I was ready for another disappointment. Remember me talking about my mom last time? She's like, I don't know why the shit they just don't let it in, you know? She gets all aggressive about it and everything. And I know we'll get in eventually. That was my posture on it. You know, Palantir has taught me to be patient about stuff like that, but it's a very welcome surprise, man.
No, it's exciting, dude. And you know, I think the big thing out of all this is the journey that we've had with this friendship, as you said. I mean, like, you and me started talking in 2021 and getting to know each other, and you know, that's when we were down in the dumps. And as the stock has gone up, we've grown together as a friendship with this entire community. And it's cool, dude. Maybe the best thing we get out of Palantir is not the gains. Truly, it's the relationships over the next decade.
And it did ultimately change the way that I invest, because I was almost always, like I said, I've got a financial advisor. The only thing I've ever told, the first and foremost thing I've ever told him is, I don't want you to invest the way that I invest.
Right.
What would be the point of that? You know what I mean? I've got a smaller account that I can do aggressive Hail Marys and stuff like that with. I don't want him to do that with the rest of my money, you know? And but that being said, Palantir made me less of an aggressive investor, more of a focused investor. There would be times where I might have 25, 30 different companies in my account. And now, you know, that's usually 7 or 8, with one of them getting sold off before I buy another one. It made me a more focused investor, more patient. I think going forward, I'll swing at a lot less things because of what I learned from Palantir, and just wait till I really like something, and wait till I really like the price of it, and then load heavier.
And I think it taught all of us, and you in particular, given it fell so much, conviction, right? What does it mean to hold a name? Like, are you thinking of selling right now as you see it at $30, or how are you?
No, I'm keeping anything over 10,000. I do swings on Palantir. I've done it 7 or 8 times this year already, but they're small amounts. I'll get up to 11,000, sometimes 11,200-300 shares. And, I might sell that and it goes back down and I'll reload and everything. But I'm keeping a minimum of 10,000 shares probably for the next 10 years or until something changes. And nothing about them has changed my mind except for the better.
Right.
That's it.
Last question for you, and then we'll get you out of here. Karp, how do you feel about him as the CEO of this company?
Well, I think he was absolutely necessary to create what has become the Palantir culture. Would I sell it all if he left? No, maybe not. I'd want to know what their plans were. It takes a long time to build up a culture like that, but if it's strong, it can take a while to destroy it too.
Yeah.
As long as he's still making the right decisions. And Palantir has always been good at cultivating and attracting good talent. I'd give them the benefit of the doubt if something happened with Karp, if he left, that they would find good stewards for the company and that it could still succeed going forward. It would depend on the circumstances. I don't want him to leave. I like him being exactly where he is.
All right. I love it, Holland. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a friend.
All right. Thanks for the cameo. I just wanted to say hi to you dudes. I love the channel. I watch it religiously. I'm in Colombia still watching it. I'm in the middle of the jungle, and if I can get a Wi-Fi signal, I'll drop in and watch you do at least the morning thing.
Dude, and I think that's why the channel has grown. It's people like you that actually care about the content. And
I've been watching it since pretty much day one.
Yeah. It means a lot, man.
All right, Matt.
Thank you.
Pleasure to meet you.
See you, Holland.
Talk to you soon.
See you later, man.
All right. What do we want to talk about now? Salesforce discussion? You want to go back to that, Steve?
Well, first, Karp should take his employees out for a nice steak dinner as a big FU to, But anyway, yeah, I think the question is, how do they scale? Because now with the market cap that they have, I think the conversation is going to now shift the valuation after they get into the S&P, and how do they scale into the next Salesforce? Because you start looking at the actual numbers, there's a lot of room that they need to cover.
Shout out to Rishi Jaloria, dude. I wonder how Rishi feels today. Yeah, I agree, dude. I see, but the thing about Salesforce, I thought about that comparison years ago, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. And you brought it to my attention. But the more I think about it, dude, Salesforce is nothing compared to the potential of Palantir.
So you say that, but they're generating $36 billion.
No. It's not that people aren't buying CRMs and all that stuff.
No. But think about what you just said. The potential of Palantir.
Yeah,
so
Palantir is an operating system for space, defense, logistics, energy. There's so many nuances to how they can penetrate an industry.
The TAM is.
That's why it's exciting to me.
No, and I understand what the TAM is, but Palantir 5xing their revenue, everybody's going to go crazy, rightfully so. But even 5xing the revenue, they're still less than half of Salesforce's revenue. So it's not necessarily fair to say that Salesforce is nothing.
Yeah, but people buy stocks, not just we can obviously see it with Palantir's valuation. They're not buying the stock for the revenue multiple. They're buying it for the potential. So I get your point. I'm just saying, if they 5x revenues, I think you're going to get people thinking they can do another 5x, and maybe they don't. But
and I'm not saying that that's not going to happen. I think that'll definitely happen. All I'm saying is there needs to be a path to scale into the numbers that a Salesforce type company is doing.
I agree.
Otherwise, then it's going to be really hard to get past a $200 billion market cap.
I agree. One thing I will say though is they're a $70 billion market cap already. They're almost half of Salesforce, dude. and they're doing 15 times less revenue. So my
That's
point
why
is
I'm
people like
saying
Palantir
that-
for other reasons, dude. That's my point.
That's why I'm saying that at some point, there's going to have to be a methodology into this scale. Otherwise, this is going to become the new narrative. This will become the new bear case.
Yeah, I mean it's tough to compare a company that's been around for so long compared to a company that I know Palantir's over a 20-year-old company, but they've really only been focusing on commercial since 2016, 2017, right? So I mean they're 8 years old if you think about it in that perspective, and they've really just come into their own in terms of really trying to scale it over the past 4 years. I feel like 5 years maybe. I feel like it's a little early to say that they won't get to Salesforce types levels. I still feel like it's a more complex product to uptake. I still think that there's a lot of product being given away for free at Palantir, just to be able to get into industries, get into verticals that otherwise might take a lot longer. And I feel like that revenue is yet to show up. So, I mean, you think about all these deals about people being in the right room. We saw pictures with Karp with the president of Finland and all these sorts of NATO sort of discussions, and we have yet to see really any sort of like hard deals be advertised and noted. And I think that's because a lot of them are given away for free. And I think a lot of that's just the business model that Palantir can implement because they are so profitable from a gross margin basis that they now, especially that they're profitable, can give a lot of this stuff away for free and charge later once they come to say, hey, our initial deal is up. You know, it's time to re-sign up. And at that point, and I think it's genius, they're so indebted and so ingrained into the company that they can't just be like, okay, well, let's just get rid of the entire operating system we've developed over the last 4 to 5 years and start from fresh. So it's almost like when Palantir partners with these people, gives them the software for free, completely changes the way that they operate. They almost like, I don't want to say become enslaved to Palantir, but it's almost like they literally partner with them. They literally view themselves as growing into the business and changing the way that these companies operate. And that's part of the reason why people like working with Palantir. It also scares the shit out of people.
Well, Matt, and you know this better than most people, but that is the bread and butter, because it doesn't matter if you're talking about a traditional finance and HR ERP system or how companies utilize Palantir. When your company does a transition into a large-scale enterprise software platform and it is making everything more efficient, helping your company run better, there is no discussion about changing to something else. Mm-hmm. And to even consider changing to something else, the amount of due diligence that has to go into that and the thought process around it, the cost benefit analysis traditionally shows that it's not worth it.
I'm getting a call real quick. Let me see if this person will talk live on stream.
Hold on. It's Chris Patel.
Never mind. Let me call them back. Never mind. They're actually they're drinking right now. So I'm not gonna have them.
That's what I thought. I was like, what's so clanging in the background?
No, they're drinking. I was like, there's no way this person can talk right now.
Yeah, don't even say who it is. Yeah,
yeah, I won't even say who it is. It was not Karp. Goodness gracious, not Karp.
But this is great for the company, and yeah, I think the only thing at this point that any of the bears can even cite is going to be the valuation discussion. And it'll be interesting if Palantir keeps growing and scaling with their margins and they don't have their free cash flow go up and down, up and down, up and down. They can get a little bit flatter on the volatility of the free cash flow on a quarterly basis. I think we can go a lot higher, but they got to keep the growth rate up and increase growth, which may not be hard to do when you look at the net dollar retention, because we've seen all these deals over the past 12 months that we know are not included in the net dollar retention numbers. So that's one of the biggest catalysts over the next 12 months is the upselling of AIP and other aspects of Foundry in Gotham. So there could be a lot more upside over the next 12 to 24 months with Palantir.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's really fucking exciting. This is shout out to TJ. TJ and I on the stream, we bought 1,000 shares at like $29 this morning, $29.50.
Oh,
so
yes.
that was a good purchase this morning. Didn't know that would happen.
The biggest sticking point I see now is really what are you going to do with this cash pile? And it's not because $4 billion is a lot right now, but the way I look at it is I'm thinking 10 years down the road. I mean, they're already stockpiling it. They're already not really deploying it other than the $25 million that they spent in last quarter with buybacks. So, I mean, other than buybacks, other than potential dividends in, say, 5-10 years' time, what are they really going to do with that to really add to the bottom line to get further revenue growth, right? Will they own their own cloud? Will they? And the answer is I don't think that they will. Like the cloud piece, I think, is a done story. They might have some limited cloud on site, here or there, but nothing to the extent of, say, what Google GCP or Azure or AWS has built. So I'm just kind of curious, what do you do with that $4 billion, and how can you get it to be used to add to the bottom line, add to the top line?
Here's the crazy
to really go for it, Steven.
They may not have to do anything with that $4 billion.
What do you mean?
I mean, they may not even have to touch that for this to continue to grow. If they don't need to acquire anybody.
No.
They're the best at what they do without acquisitions, organic growth.
Oh, 100%.
So all they may have to do is just continue their R&D.
So then is it literally just continued organic growth, and they just use that whenever they feel comfortable, they come up with a model to buy back stock as long as it doesn't put the company in a horrible position on cash on hand? I mean, I'm okay. I'm comfortable with the $4 billion, right? But let's just say they sit there with $20 billion. It's a very low CapEx model. It's extremely profitable, high gross margin, high net margin even. The free cash flow margin is outstanding. So it's like, if you just have $20 billion sitting there, what are you going to do with it?
So at some point, we know the Fed funds rate is going to go down to a level where it makes much less sense than it does today to have the cash sitting there for an interest argument. So at some point, that's no longer going to be generating the money to the bottom line.
Yeah.
That's probably end of next year you start having that conversation. So buybacks don't make a whole lot of sense at this point. Dividend does not make sense.
Yeah, not this early. Yeah.
Acquisitions do not make sense unless you're going to acquire a company that can give you a sideways vertical into another area. But Palantir could probably just build whatever they want to do and integrate it into their product. So I think that that's out. I think that this just becomes something where if they get to $5 billion, they say 50% of every dollar we add to our cash pile is going into a venture fund, and forget about the shots that we took in the past. This is going to be a different type of venture fund, and they look at payment processing and those types of things.
Yeah.
Woo! This is exciting. This is exciting.
I mean, this is nice. I mean, it feels it's a weight off the back. I feel like they can. I hope it was never a milestone in front of them that they felt like, or a hill that they felt like they needed to climb. I feel like they're not operating that way.
Well, now the fear is, does somebody try to acquire them now that they're part of the S&P?
No way, dude. No
I don't
way.
think people can. Fucking carp with the spinning laptop. I always love that.
Come on, dude. How could you not invest in this guy? How could you, who
just
else?
casually on CNBC, bro?
I mean, it's one of those things, bro. I think the first time I got to experience carp, he was on CNBC in 2020, and he was telling Andrew Ross Sorkin, if you don't like the stock, don't fucking buy it. And I was like, whoa, that is a very That is a very I don't give a fuck type of guy.
Eddie just dropped some straight knowledge. I own I own a crap ton of S&P 500. Automatically, my ownership in Palantir is going to grow.
Dude, we didn't even look at the S&P after hours. Where's the S&P? Palantir's still 32. S&P still flat. Okay. Well, Palantir's not in them yet. Why am I even? They're not in the S&P literally yet. But yeah, that's a good point.
Somebody made a comment, and it's interesting because now the wheels start spinning. We know that Palantir became the prime for the project. Do they decide to go a step further?
I mean, so Palantir has been getting a lot of government deals. They got Titan, they got Maven. They beat Raytheon for Titan.
Do you just buy Anduril?
I don't think Anduril is going to sell to Palantir. Palmer Luckey wants to. I feel like he wants to do it on his own. He's not going to sell.
Yeah,
but my point is,
could you imagine him on the Palantir team?
I mean, no, it would be the best acquisition.
It would be so epic.
But the thing is, Anduril just got valued at 15 billion. Palantir they can't buy them for 30 billion. You know, they can't.
Why not?
I mean, it's going to be a lot of dilution, which I'm fine with. But B, I think Anduril thinks they can be 100. They can be the new Lockheed Martin. Is I think Palmer Luckey's.
And I'm not saying that they can't.
So why would they sell? That's the point. You know, they're not going to sell
because it could make them more valuable in the future. Because now it's not just the hardware; it's the back end infrastructure, and everything is built as one conglomerate.
Yeah, but see, that's the beautiful thing about Anduril. They're not actually just a hardware company. They're a software company as well. Not as software intense as Palantir, but that's why they're getting a lot of these contracts as well. So I think they'll work together like they have been on Titan, but I don't think they're going to, get acquired or anything.
Yeah, other than some type of actual hardware company for the military industrial complex, I don't see another vertical Palantir would consider an acquisition in at this point, because that's something that they can't do. Something on the software side they can figure out and their engineers can do. But on the manufacturing side with defense, that's something I just don't see them physically doing.
I think the culture of Palantir is so special. And again, I got to spend a couple of days with them at AIPCon. I think that, when I came back from AIPCon, I talked to over 50 employees and I said, hey, why are you here? One of the employees that was hanging around with me for every day, he was like walking with me, and every time a new employee came up to me and I started questioning them, he's like, watch out, Amit's about to interrogate you. Because I was legit interrogating these guys, trying to figure out who the fuck am I investing in? And every single one of these guys. The real question
for Amit is, how buck are you gonna go?
What is buck mean?
Buck wild.
How wild are you gonna go the next time you are able to see people?
I mean, no, if I get an opportunity, it would be awesome to see them again. But my point is,
but what I'm saying is, this is going to be such a big high five moment.
Yeah, no, I think
This is huge.
If I get to see Karp again, I think it'll be a big high five moment. But the point is, a lot of these employees kept telling me, we're here because we have the autonomy to be ourselves. We don't have a defined role. Karp and the leadership. One of the guys was with me. He said, the reason I'm here, and he pointed to Karp, who was standing a couple feet away. He was like, that guy. It's like, that's why I'm fucking here. And when you see employees, there's only less than 3,800 of them. When they talk like that, the average revenue for the employees is a couple $1 million. You start realizing, why would I invest in any other software company?
And I love that Karp just came right over to you. That's just great.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was fun, dude. It was. I think he cares a lot about the community. I mean, think about Iliano and the merch store, right? I know a lot of you guys know Iliano. He was on my channel. Why did Iliano start the merch store? It's because the company's okay with them engaging with retail investors, right? And they weren't like that for a couple of years, and it makes sense. The stock was in the gutter. Why would you engage with it's risky? But as the company has evolved, much less the stock, now I think they're ready to engage with us, and they actually care.
Thank God they did not spin off the government business.
Oh yeah, that was.
I never. Yeah, when Chris always used to say that, I never.
That's such a great picture. Do you have that framed?
No, I don't have it framed, but I have it on.
Why not? That should be framed.
Dude, it was so cool. I was like, "How do you like my hair?" He's like,
"He's pretty tall. He's what? He's like 6'2".
He's like 6'2". I'm 5'8" on a good day. But.
You're not, dude. You're the 5'10".
No, I'm not 5'10". I wish I was.
You need to get him to sign that and frame it.
That's a good.
I have Ileana sent me a signed hat of his, so I have one of those.
Nice.
Yeah, I want to get that. What's that? I want to get it cellophane and vacuum sealed, so I don't ever Like,
Dude, the coolest thing about this, though, this was a good moment for me just because I've been covering the company for 3 years. And it was one of those moments where, you know, the CEO kind of recognized you and he just like, he was thankful for you. But for my parents, it was a big deal, bro. Because my parents came, because they came from India. They were working for $2 an hour at gas stations. And their son's over here meeting with a literal billionaire. You know, and the guy's messing with my hair. Like my mom, the amount of WhatsApp groups my mom sent that picture, like India knows Alex Karp and they know Alex Karp because of my mom. Like all 3 billion people in India know who Alex Karp
And
is.
I know the Indian aunties, they be chatting on WhatsApp.
Yeah, because you know, for my mom, it's a big deal, dude. It's like her son's getting to kind of do this cool stuff. And again, the deeper thing here is my mom always wanted to do something creative, and her parents, because they were a lot more conservative, shut down those dreams. And so when I told my mom I wanted to do content and all this stuff, she was like, dude, she was like, go for it, right? She was like, fucking go for it. And then you get these moments where you meet Karp and the manifestation of your dreams are starting to become real. And so for them, it's a very emotional moment. So it's been awesome, dude.
Well, this is a great day. I am going to go get another physical share and have 9/6/2024 is the day that Palantir got into the S&P engraved in it.
9/6/2024, baby.
What cigar are you smoking to celebrate?
We may have to pull out a Cuban for tonight.
Oh,
Cuban. I'm
We
acting
may
like I know what a Cuban is.
We may have to.
All right.
Cool.
Well,
Matt,
this was
appreciate
great.
you keeping us on for so long.
This is great.
I'll be
day.
on. I'll talk to the chat for a little bit, but Matt, I'll see you tonight at 11. Dom will join
Absolutely.
us. Steve, if you're free, you can join us tonight. If not, no worries.
Yeah, I may be around. We'll see. Yeah, this is just great. And this is just one. I don't know if there'll ever be another stock like this again, where this could be a once in a lifetime thing where this many people on the retail side stuck with it and got it right.
Yeah.
Got it right is the big part, dude. Because
Got
usually
it right.
retail fucks up. And this time retail did not fuck
You
up.
don't think SoFi has that potential, Steven?
Oh, don't get him. He hates it. I've been trying to get him to talk about SoFi for 3 weeks on the show. And every time he's
Do it for me, Steven.
he won't talk about
Tell us what you
What,
think.
that I'm upset? I'm upset about it.
You should play the Drake song. I'm upset.
I mean, listen, I think there's a fundamental flaw at this point about the whole. I need to look more into it, but I'm not a fan of them outsourcing the business side. Like, that is a critical success factor, in my opinion. Obviously, they think differently. They think that they can achieve their goals this way, and I got to trust them. But for my investment methodology, when you say that you want to become and you believe you're going to become a top 10 financial institution, I don't see these other financial institutions that are that big in the top 10 outsourcing this aspect, because for me, this is a funnel into wealth management and 401k plan and 403b plan management. Like, I have a very big bone to pick at the moment with this. And I could be wrong. I could be 100% wrong. I do not know better than them. But for my investment thesis, for everything to work the way that I envisioned it working based on what they have been saying up until this point, I did not see them outsourcing business checking and savings.
Yeah.
My next
All right.
one to get into the S&P is Rocket Lab, but we'll get to that point in a couple of years. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Steve. All their links will be in the description and in the chat. Matt's YouTube, Steve Seeking Alpha. And we'll see you guys on Palantir Weekly.
You rock. Thank you so much.
Congrats,
See you,
Emir.
Steve.
See you guys.
Thanks, brother.
And then there was one. Yeah, guys, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. I'm still trying to process this. So I want to see what you guys say now. I couldn't really keep up with the chat as I was managing 3 very intense personalities between Matt, Steve, and Emir. So let's see what you guys have to say. Yes, Palantir Weekly at 11 p.m. Twitter's freaking out, dude. Twitter is going crazy, dude. Twitter is excited. Twitter is excited. So there you go. That's the tweet. You got everyone excited about this, dude. Like Sophia, I haven't talked to Sophia in like a year, but she has like 30,000 Palantir shares. So she started following me a long time ago. There's a lot of people here. I care about Palantir. It's been a long journey, man. It's been a long journey covering this company. It's so exciting, dude. It's so great. So here's the other thing. The institutional ownership now for Palantir probably is going to be Bayray said, is Sophia single? Dude, she's like 40. Like, what is like this guy just says this random shit, dude. The institutional ownership now is going to probably go from 44%, I would imagine, to like at least 50 over the next 12 months, if not 55. And after the execution of Q3, which is likely going to be a 30% quarter, I mean, dude, $35 end of year was my new target after the Q2 earnings. Could I see 40? Yeah, I think that's a little aggressive based on the macro, but I think 35 is still possible after a good earnings. Here's the thing, though. We talked for the first hour and a half before Palantir got into the S&P 500. If you didn't know, Palantir got into the S&P 500. Just reminding you guys about the macro. And now it feels like all this macro stuff is like irrelevant because Palantir got in, but it's going to be relevant on Monday if these gains go away, which is very possible because you never know what happens. But look, it's holding 7.45%. I said it would go up 10%, so I was off by about 2%. But we're still up by 7.45%. And it's well-deserved. Dell is up 5%. Erie Indity, I don't know what that is, but that thing is up 2.4%. That's a $20 billion company. Dell's a $70 billion company. Palantir as well is a $70 billion company. The macro is going to determine if they can hold these levels or if not. Now with CrowdStrike, they held these levels until their outage incident. So as long as Palantir doesn't have a crazy outage incident and the macro holds up, maybe we hold this 32, 33 range. Do I think Palantir can hit 40 soon? I think it's possible. Not soon. I would say end of December if it was going to happen. But like, again, dude, 40 would imply a pretty stretched valuation for the growth that they currently have. Maybe Q3, they have 35% growth, and then everything changes. The problem I'm most concerned about now about the stock, and again, this is not as much about the stock, it's more about the fact that they got in, it is the macro. And like, dude, today was still a bloody day. We're all Palantir shareholders, so this is super exciting. But like, let's not forget, it was a really aggressive day to the downside. It was sad. Red just across the board. After hours, S&P still down about 1/3%. And so Palantir being green in the sea of red is amazing, but can it hold that green if the S&P continues to fall? Now, if we front-loaded all the bearishness for September, again, every September the past 4 years, S&P fell 5%. We're down 4.5% this week. If that's front-loaded and now we've only got to go up, because the bottom's in for the first week of September, then maybe Palantir ends the month of September at 35. But if not, maybe we kind of pull back a little bit to that 30 range. But to be honest, 30 to 32, it's like, there's not really that big of a difference. So if we stay in this range, it's whatever. But we're not, it doesn't look like we're going back to 25 that easily. At least that easily. It could happen, but it doesn't look like after this, it happens that easily. This is exciting, dude. This is so exciting. As Doug says, the journey is just getting started. Here's the question. What is a raw thought that you had as soon as we got in? One word, not one sentence, one word. What was if you had to describe the feeling in one word as soon as you found out, what would be that one word? Arnie can't get on. Arnie is he's busy. Otherwise, Arnie would have been on the stream. Arnie will be on Palantir Weekly, but he's busy because he has like some family over in Italy right now. But he'll be on the stream tonight at 11. What is one word to describe this? Finally, okay, I like that one. Vindication, I love that one. OMG, that's a good one. I love it. Bliss, I like that. I bet Amit's really happy. Yes, that's a little bit more than one word, but that's awesome. Yo, Bayray, relax, bro. Sophia, dude, calm down, man. We need to get you a girl. Freaking out about this random Twitter account, dude. Rob says sex. Okay, that's nut. Well, yep, that's happiness. Han says came, dude. You guys are nasty, bro. You guys are some. We have freaks on my chat. I don't know why. I don't know why we have freaks on my chat, but I guess we do. Wet. See, this is like, I don't know if now it's just compounding on each other. Danielle says Mayo. Please, someone get rid of Danielle. Danielle, I'm sorry. I love you, but We can't. This is just, it's blasphemy to put that word there. Messi, I love that one. That's good. This is awesome, dude. Congratulations. That's a great word. Not yet. I want more shares. You know, someone else I was talking to this morning said, I actually don't want them to get in because I want to get more shares, which is fair. But, you know, my answer to that would be, all right, we'll just buy it. You know, if you think the stock's going to be $200-$300, then just buy it at 32. The problem is, like, the valuation is stretched for the growth. Just like, again, Salesforce, $250 billion market cap, Palantir, $70 billion. Palantir is taking up a lot of room of Salesforce, and they do 15 times less revenue than Salesforce. So when you look at, like, when you take off the euphoria hat and you look at the numbers, you remember, oh yeah, this is an aggressive valuation. But then becomes the question, which is what differentiates a lot of investors from other investors, like Amazon also was egregiously trading at one point, right? So was Tesla, so was Nvidia, but people who bought in, they still bought in. So the question is Palantir going to be that story, or is it going to go through a couple of cycles before it officially breaks out the way Nvidia, Amazon, and Tesla did? And I don't know. We're going to have to see how that plays out. But I would rather buy it than not buy it, because you can always DCA during that time, you know? I think a lot of us do have PTSD, though, from 2022, because a lot of us bought it at 20, 23, 24, thinking it would be okay, and then it fell to 6. But, you know, times are different, and it doesn't seem like that can easily happen again. Inevitability. Yep, I agree. Gerber. Dude, how is Gerber feeling right now? Mr. Ross Gerber called Palantir similar to Nazi Germany. I don't think they let Nazi Germany into the S&P 500. So, I mean, I think he has to definitely be feeling a certain way right now. I mean, it's tough, dude. When you make public statements about a company, like, you got to live with them. And because I'm on YouTube, I make public statements about companies all the time. But you try not to be too egregious, you know, because sometimes you say something, it could fire back pretty aggressively, especially if you say something that's just full of shit. Eric says victory. I love it. I love it. I love it as well. You need to get the Bear Cave dude back on. I wonder if he would come on. You know, he was supposed to be on in May, but like we never ended up doing it. But he was going to come on again. Again, you know, I don't even feel that bad for, I think he was always chasing attention, and he thought Palantir, if he said something controversial, he would get attention. So that's why he, you know, wrote that article. I have no ill will towards him or anything, but, you know, when we did the debate, the whole point of doing that debate at the time was, honestly, to stand up for the company. You know, those moments really stick out in my journey. Like, the reason Iliano and Chad and the company invited me to AIPCon, all this stuff, the reason they've kept a rather close relationship with me that's only been growing over the past couple months is because I think they noticed during the times of need, you know, publicly you would step up. And so during the NHS saga, you know, the videos I had on YouTube, which at the time there were not a lot of Palantir YouTubers, there was really like 2 or 3 of us, and I was one of the only people actually uploading every single day. Those videos stuck out, right? When I debate the Bear Cave dude who writes this salacious article and it gets mainstream attention, I bring him on the channel, and, you know, given my debater history, we ask some questions. He kind of sounds stupid and kind of exposes that the guy doesn't really know what he's talking about. Like, those are moments I think that stood out to the company, and that's why they reached out to me a year later as the stock and the company started progressing, because now they were in a position to actually engage with retail. So it's those moments that really matter in this broader journey. And I think those moments will stand the test of time as the company continues to progress. But it's been fun, dude. It's been so much fun. Do you think MicroStrategy can hit 1,000 by the end of next year? If Bitcoin goes to like 150, yes. If not, then no. The problem with all the crypto derivatives, where's Bitcoin right now? I mean, Bitcoin just shit the bed, dude. It shit the bed. 53.7. At least it's not at 52 anymore. Where's Robinhood after hours? Robinhood 1890. Yeah. I mean, look, dude, Robinhood does not deserve to be under 25 at all. And I understand the numbers of this company very well. Obviously, it's my subjective belief, but still, I think it's getting hit because interest rates are 5.5%. You can get a lot of money in a safer way. And then Bitcoin going down hurts their trading volumes. Not their total trading volumes, but it's one of those things that hurts their trading volumes. By the way, speaking of Hood real quick, I just got sent a picture. I want to show you guys this picture. I'm going to do some speculation on this picture, but my friend just sent me this. You guys ready for this? Dougie, you're going to like this, Doug. You're going to like this. I know some of you Hood whales in the chat. You're going to like this. You guys ready for this? You guys fucking ready? He bought $100 of Bitcoin, and he got 0.04% as a bonus for buying his Bitcoin. He just sent me this just now. I'm assuming this is in beta, but if Robinhood starts giving a bonus on your Bitcoin, the way they gave a 1% deposit on your brokerage deposits, I mean, I'm just saying that might be one of those features that really starts making them a crypto powerhouse. I don't know if this is a promotion. I don't know if this is a beta. I don't know what it is, but apparently for some people, you're getting a bonus right now if you buy. Oh, you got that bonus as well? Walt, you got that bonus? Yeah, I wonder what it's about. Some Robinhood crypto trades qualify for a bonus reward. This amount is an estimate of how much Bitcoin you will receive, including the bonus reward. They have their event coming up in October. If they end up, making this like a real thing, like unlimited crypto bonuses, I don't know. It would be pretty cool. So we'll see what happens there. But that's an exciting thing to see for Robinhood as well. Harry says, I love Palantir, but all studies show S&P inclusion has no long-term lasting effect on gains rather than the inclusion. Not, of course. Yeah, I mean, look, I agree. It's not really about the inclusion on the stock. And I know we make it about the stock because like the stock is the thing that goes up and down and that's fun. But it's about the prestige and honor of being recognized as one of the top 500 companies on the planet. Like Palantir deserves that more than most companies, I believe, given their execution, their commitment, their unwillingness to actually give a shit when other companies don't give a shit. Like the Maven contract that they picked up from Google in 2019. Google's over here funding AI labs in China, but they're refused to work with the DoD. That's Palantir's opportunity. Palantir comes in and says, what? You're going to work with search engines in China, but you're not going to like work with your own Western government? Like what type of nonsense is going on? That type of commitment to caring about values as a company, I think that deserves at least to be recognized as one of the most important companies on the planet. And that's what the S&P 500 inclusion hopefully starts to validate with Palantir. And then hopefully the stock does well, because of that. But in general, it's just a really, really important thing for them. Yeah, I also agree with Doug right here. It's a lot easier for a CFO to push a $20 million contract for a company that's going to be around. Yeah, I agree. Harry says perception helps, but in what sense? Fundamentals should improve with better perception, but clearly it doesn't necessarily. No, I disagree with that, Harry. Fundamentals improving are good for investors, but it's not good for the average CFO or CTO that is reading some random report or doing like a quick Google search on the company, right? They're not going to look at your operating margins. They might, but a lot of them are making quick decisions. They want to know some of the basics about the company. They want to know if they can trust the company. They want to know if institutions trust the company. I think getting into the S&P 500 is a big fucking deal because Palantir's fundamentals have improved dramatically over the past 6-7 quarters. But that doesn't mean it's become easier for them to necessarily scale. And I think if we're looking for ease of scale with AIP boot camps, with customer adoption, with upsells, you need legitimacy. And it seems like this is legitimacy that they're getting. But I can understand the perspective that, hey, this is not going to mean a lot for the stock. I get that. The market could tank next week again and Palantir goes back to 30. But I think it's just so important that they actually got in. And again, as Steve mentioned, there is going to be a bi-weekly execution of buy purchases on Palantir now for the S&P 500. There was a good chart. I'm going to see if I can find it, but there is a chart of weekly inflows that have been propping up the broader market for the Mag 7. Like a lot of the Mag 7, dude, they would not be like Apple would not be 230 unless they were buying back a crap ton of stock and ETFs were not buying a crap ton of Apple stock. Same thing with the other Mag 7. So a lot of this stuff comes from ETFs at the end of the day. And Apple and the Mag 7, they're in all the big ETFs. Palantir is just getting into one of them. But if other ETFs start including Palantir, that is one of those things that hopefully helps with the inflows coming in. Does that mean it's going to not be super volatile? No, but it is one of those things at least that begins to help hopefully create a little floor to the stock. Does that mean ETFs will buy? Yes. Now, I don't know the specifics on when or how or which ETFs will buy, but I think we will start getting a lot more institutional ownership over the next or at least over the next 12 months. The bonus is a bonus in Bitcoin, Bay Ray. It's not a cash bonus. It's a bonus in Bitcoin. I'm curious, are they actually going to roll out some type of feature where everyone gets a bonus for buying Bitcoin? We know they just bought Bitstamp. Is there something related to that? Or is this just for some users to get more incentivized? I don't know. So I'm curious what they're doing with that, but we'll see what ends up happening there. Ultimately, man, I think Karp has a real mission. He has a real story to this company. There's a reason that he's here. And it's just so fun to bet on a guy like this who doesn't care, who really cares about just actually winning. At the end of the day, he doesn't care about anything else. Let me play this one clip from him. This goes in hand with what I'm saying right here about why Karp thinks their products deserve more value from the market.
Think about, the Snowflakes of the world, the Databricks of the world, and that product suite, as it were, compared to yours.
Our products are deeper than any other products on the market, have an institutional veracity that's differentiated, are doing things that are arguably more important. I don't think that's really subject to debate. I do think what is a legitimate question is if a product is future oriented and requires a depth of understanding of the product, and or it doesn't inherently map to selling a wrench to a pre-existing technical org, will you capture the full value of those products? So I think you can ask the critical question of various companies. You mentioned too, there are many. Are the products actually thick enough to be valuable? You could ask the question of Palantir, is it thin enough to be fully monetized? And I think both questions are legitimate. What I would say is our view at Palantir is we're very differentiated in building these products before they exist. And on the thick part, we are without competition.
So when he says we're very differentiated in building these products before they exist, I think we're seeing that in the reacceleration of growth. We're seeing that in how they're gaining momentum. We're seeing how the market's pricing them as an AI SaaS, not just a regular SaaS. And we're seeing also the S&P today recognize that, hey, maybe this is a company that is a lot more differentiated than the rest of the market. Therefore, they deserve to join the S&P 500. Dude, this is just surreal seeing it. Every time I see Palantir's name on a headline in mainstream media, it's always surreal to me because I remember going like a good 24 months without seeing them in headlines because they like no one was covering them, So like it's like every time I see them on CNBC or see them on Bloomberg, it's always one of those. I get goosebumps because I'm like, wow, like they're getting the coverage that they deserve, and I can only imagine how Karp must feel to see that type of momentum. So you got American Airlines going out, Etsy going out, Biorad Laboratories going out. And then Dell, Palantir, and what is this company? Erie Indemnity. Let's search this company. What is this thing? This is insurance. It's an insurance company. Okay, so they got in Dell, Palantir, and an insurance company. That's what they put in. Okay. Yeah, if they accepted Dell, Erie, and some other random company without Palantir, I mean, it would just be so annoying. Really, you're going to let an insurance company and a company that has 0% operating margins to get into the S&P 500 over Palantir? Like, it was time, dude. It was time. It was time. And now it is happening. It was time and it's happening. I'd love to share a blunt with Karp. That would, getting high with Karp probably would be crazy, dude. He's already like, when he talks about philosophy, you would imagine only someone could be super high to talk like him. But then you realize he has a PhD in philosophy, which is why he can talk like that. That would be crazy, dude. Smoking a blunt with Karp. I don't even know what he would say. That would be absolutely wild. Not trying to be a downer, but you guys think the sell-offs can hold, this sells off with the macro? I mean, look, the macro today, if Palantir did against the S&P 500, I would still probably be thinking about the sell-off we had and analyzing it a bit deeper just personally. But I have been subdued from thinking about it because we have this euphoria of Palantir getting in. So to bring it back to the macro, I think it's a crappy macro right now with this jobs report. But in the face of that crappy macro, I don't think the market falls 14%. and we fall another 4% next week and another 4% next week, another 4% next week. I think the 4% happened, and hopefully we front loaded it. I don't think there was a reason to fall 4% this week. Semis fell way worse than 4%. So if you're in semis, you got the brunt of the pain. But theoretically, I think if every September we've been down 4%, this should be a decent amount of pain for the market to step back in. The problem is if the market doesn't believe this jobs report and they think we're getting into a recession, then it doesn't matter if you're Palantir or Amazon. You're going to get sold off, because if people don't have jobs, the market's going to price in a bad consumer and we have a recession. Even if it's a rolling recession like it was in 2022, it will be, everything gets sold off. Like nothing is safe outside of maybe, you know, defensives, utilities, United Healthcare, those types of companies. But I don't know. I don't think we're going to end up into a recession, but at least today the market thinks they, you know, that might end up happening. It would be a buying opportunity, correct? I agree with you as well. I think at that point that would be a buying opportunity. Especially, again, I said this on the morning stream, but if Palantir goes back to 20 or Robinhood goes back to 13, like, I mean, please give me those prices all day. Like, I don't care. Like let's get it over with. I'll buy, you know, like that. So the earnings growth doesn't justify those valuations, even if the macro does. But that's where the mismatch is. That's what happened August 5th. The earnings growth did not justify those prices, which might end up being generational prices for both Robinhood, Palantir, and some of those other companies. And that's why the buy the dip made sense. So we'll see if we get another opportunity to do that. My $33 covered calls hopes it sells off. Well, yeah, you might just have to roll those. I mean, I think you can manage 33 to 35 covered calls. 31, even 31. I think the guy who sold 31s, maybe they expire today. If they expire next week, I feel like you manage those. But I think if you have $30 to $35 covered calls, you can manage it, because there will be moments, and you just have to find the right moment on the right day where you get to roll or you get to get out for a little bit of a debit. But if you're at like 27 or 24 on your covered call, or, you know, or 29, that's going to be a little harder. It's going to be a little harder. Any updates on Figure AI? No updates outside of what the company has posted publicly. Yeah, I mean, if you go to the CEO's Twitter, Brett Adcock, he's tweeting all the time about different things they're doing. He did say they are producing one. They did a podcast like a week ago. They're doing one robot a day. Sorry, not a day, a week, which is awesome. And so now it's going to be a question of when they can ship, you know, more robots. Palantir right here, up 7.5%, 32.59, keeping that 7% range. So it looks like we're going to close above 32.50, which is incredible. So yeah, I mean, on Figure, again, I think humanoid robotics are the best manifestation of real world AI. That's why Elon not being on the cover of Time magazine, that also was insane. But Figure, you know, a lot of people say, why did you invest in Figure over Tesla, even though Tesla's doing Optimus? My answer is like, it's obvious. Figure was worth $2 billion when I invested in them. And now in the private market, there's offers for $10 billion. So I think that initial investment has already gone up 5x. And Tesla's worth $700 billion. Even if it was a couple of months ago, $400 billion. So a 2x on Tesla would require closer to $1 trillion or 1.3 trillion. A 2x on Figure, it needs to go from 2 billion to 4 billion. and then it's just a question of, all right, is the company full of shit or can they pull it off? I don't think the company's full of shit. I think, you know, I don't know if they become $1 trillion company, but I definitely think they get closer to 100 billion over the next decade, which would be a 50x on the investment. And so, you know, I'll put in 25,000, that would get me to $1 million. I'm like, all right, it's not too bad. So that's why I made that investment. But you know, we'll see if that ends up playing out. I would have loved to have, you know, more Palantir, but some of those opportunities are just like really important to at least give it a chance and see if it happens. I was worried about my 35 covered calls. I think your 35 will be fine, dude. If it expires in the next month, look, could Palantir pump to 35? Yes, but if the S&P was at 565, I would say, yeah, maybe, you know, 35 is within striking distance. The S&P is at 539, 540. It's just a little tough. At the end of the day, stocks move together. It's really tough for one stock. Yeah, 538, goodness, after hours. It's really hard for one stock to fully outperform the market. Remember, NVIDIA's outperformed, but the broader market's up 18%, which is why NVIDIA is up 125%. If the market was down 20% this year, NVIDIA would not be up 120%. There would be no money going into it. They wouldn't have added $1 trillion in market cap. So this is why people say analyzing the macro is stupid. I fundamentally disagree. If you don't analyze the macro and you only stuck on analyzing just one stock, that'll get you the due diligence on the stock, but then the timing of understanding how the stock will react in a particular environment, I definitely think you need some macro to guide a lot of that stuff. Shout out to Dylan. Really happy for you, Amit. Way to take in a company a year ago. Believe, give up your time, show up every day. Proud of you with your Palantir's accomplishment. Way to go, Amit. Thank you, Dylan. Thank you for the comment, and thank you everybody for being here. Again, the biggest thing about this journey, as I was telling Holland when he was on stream, I really do think it's going to be the relationships. I mean, look, at the end of the day, we are all here together over one common reason, which was Palantir. And I know a lot of people joined the channel in the past year, and they've joined it from the market open and the market close, and like that introduced them to the channel. But I'm sure, you know, if you watch the stream every day, you watch the daily Palantir episode every day, there is some interest you have in Palantir. It is very rare that one subject connects literally hundreds of thousands, and soon enough, it's going to be millions and millions of people, and then creates a legit community where people want to meet each other, people want to go to each other's weddings, people want to meet each other's friends and family. To do that is special, and it doesn't happen often. And I think the one company it's happened for is Tesla. And I have a lot of friends who have other friends inside the Tesla community, and they're like legit like homies. Like they've developed real relationships with those people over time. And I think that matters way more to them than their Tesla gains, because life really doesn't matter with a ton of money. I mean, I think we can all admit that if you had $1 million and no one to celebrate it with, like there's only so much stuff you can buy, or $1 billion. You need to have people in your life that you care about. And I think that's the fun thing about Palantir. I think we found the hay in the needle stack correct. We found the hay in the needle stack. Dude, I've spoken to billionaires that don't have that much excitement in their life, and they've had the money, right? They've had the success, but it means little to them compared to the relationships that they've been able to create. And I think the fun thing about Palantir is there are people like my friend who bought 377,000 shares yesterday, and then there's people who bought 20 shares this morning because they thought, hey, maybe we get into the S&P 500. Both of those people can bond on one topic, which is their commitment and obsession with analyzing Palantir. And the degrees of wealth are inconsequential to the values that people have joined into this community with. And that's been the most exciting part of this journey. And I take it with great respect and great humility to be someone who's part of this community, as seen as, you know, one of the leaders of this community, because it's one of those things where, again, how many times do you have an opportunity in life to find a topic and then create consistent content about the topic? A, because the content subject is so interesting, aka Palantir. B, because there's so many updates because the company keeps fucking executing like Palantir, that gives you the platform to even discuss them, and then builds this community because you put in the work to actually talk about the company and make content around the subject. And, you know, it was one of those things where if you wanted to talk about Tesla, if you weren't there since 2013, it was really hard to compete just in a social media landscape, because you weren't going to be seen as a credible voice because it already ran up. Same thing with NVIDIA, right? If you weren't there since 2019, 2018, it already ran up. So with Palantir at $6, it was one of those things where, okay, well, maybe this thing runs up, maybe it doesn't, but this is the opportunity to actually build something genuine. And that establishes credibility. And more importantly, that establishes authenticity. And that authenticity, I think, is so important inside of a community, because when you lose the authentic nature of the community, then the community, it just doesn't exist, right? And so I think, you know, people like Matt Money, Steve's been fucking writing articles about this since DPO, Emir, Arnie. I mean, Arnie was talking about this thing when it was $6, $7 on Twitter. Arnie, you know, the funny story about Arnie is he started writing tweets, and one day I retweeted his tweet. He was at my house in June. He was sitting with my mom, and he was like, you know, Amit's the reason I started like really making content. And I was like, what? You never told me that. What are you talking about? He was like, yeah, dude, you retweeted one of my tweets in February of 2022 when I had like 20 followers or whatever. And he was like, that gave me confidence to say that I could analyze Palantir. And I was like, really? That's what did it for you? And he's like, yeah. And ever since then, I just started like tweeting, and then I developed a relationship with you, and now I'm at your house. And it was a really emotional moment, because I was like, as a community, we lifted each other up. You know, I wasn't the most perfect Palantir analysis. I've gotten plenty of things wrong, but like all of us kind of crowdsourced this information together. And the reason I retweeted him is because he had some really good due diligence. I was like, this is a great analysis. This is awesome. And so I was like, this is like, who am I to not give exposure to this content, given that I'm learning from the content? And I think that level of authenticity and lack of toxicness in those early days is what developed a base. And then, people join the community and things can get wild, and you have a lot of people sometimes that are just doing it for the clout and the attention. But I think the core nucleus of the community has been strong. And I don't think that's going away anytime soon. So it's exciting. If Amit went on a date today, what would he talk about? Tesla says himself. Oh my God, dude. I mean, come on, dude. I mean, that I have to, if she asks me about my hobbies and interests, I can't mention Palantir because then I won't shut up about it. Dude, how am I going to, I've been thinking about this. You guys have to help me figure this out because you guys are going to know when I have a girl in my life, because there's no way I cannot tell you guys. But like in those initial days, I'm going to have to explain to her what I do, which is I'm a content creator on the internet that like streams in the morning and in the evening, and thousands of people join to hear me talk really fast about stocks. Like I wonder what the perception of her is going to be, especially if she's some like fancy consultant or investment banker or something. She has some crazy corporate job, because I don't know how women are going to interpret that. Even though I think it's the fucking coolest thing in the world. There is not one ounce of my identity that thinks, oh, that's lame. Like, dude, I love what I do every day. I'm the most appreciative every fucking day to do this. And I know what I'm building, and I hope I can keep building it in an authentic way. So I'm like zero zone focused on what I'm doing. But I wonder how women are going to interpret that. And then B, like she's going to have to know about Palantir. She's like, I'm going to be like it's one of those things in the household. Like, we're going to talk about, there's going to be a picture of me and Carp on the wall. Like, so I'm curious how I'm going to navigate those situations. Like, I don't know, dude. My mom keeps telling me to find a girl right now and not find a girl. Like, let's say in the next 2 years, we get to 200,000-300,000 subscribers and, the brand grows bigger. My mom really wants me to find a girl right now. Like every day she's like, you need to find a girl right now who's with you when you're in the dumps, when you're building, because if you find a girl when you're a bit more successful, it's not going to be as, it's going to be a little bit, it's going to be faker. It's not going to be as authentic versus having a girl from the beginning. So we're going to have to figure out how she thinks and navigates of my career. What if she's a Palantir employee? Dude, could you imagine I'm on a date and I'm like, so what do you do? She's like, oh, I work at Palantir. I would be like, oh, really? Interesting. Like, imagine we know nothing about each other, like absolutely nothing, as like a blind date or something. She's like, oh yeah, I work at this like tech company in New York called Palantir. I literally like, it would be one of those it would be one of those scenes from a movie where the camera zooms in on you and you're just like, so what does Palantir do, right? That would be my first question, and it would just start the journey. And dude, that would be crazy. That would be absolutely crazy if that happened. That would be so much fun. That would be wild. I would have to. I would be like, excuse me, I have to go to the bathroom. I would go to the bathroom. Like, guys, I'm on a date right now, and this girl says she works at Palantir. Like, I would just be tweeting. I would be like, guys, I don't know. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Ask her what is her credit score. That's always a good question. That is a good question. The funny thing about that situation as well is it would be like, I wonder how much she would care about the company, right? Because like, what if she's just working there because like she's working there? Most Palantir employees are super mission oriented, but what if she's just like, yeah, I'm just here for a couple of years and then I'll move on? It would be interesting to see how she thinks about the company as well if she actually does work there. Most people that work there though, I mean, they really care about the mission, dude. They're like really committed to it. You talk more than any woman I know, Amit. You either need an extreme extrovert or an introverted empath. That's a good point. But, one thing I will say, though, is in my experience with women, I am a pretty good listener. I know I talk a lot all day, obviously, because I'm streaming all day. But I'm a pretty good listener, dude. Like, I think that's also I've just noticed that if you listen, you can have better conversations. And so I actually do a lot less talking. I do a lot more listening. And I think it makes the quality of conversation a lot better. And the reason I listen is also not because I just like love listening to women talk and stuff. It's more so because I did debate, and in debate, you have to listen. This is why when I'm watching an interview live of like Karp or any CEO, I can immediately close it and then analyze what I just heard. Because in debate in high school, I had to really listen to like effectively debate my opponents. And if I didn't listen to their arguments, I was screwed. So I think I'm a decent listener as much as I am a talker. You know, and hopefully I'll be able to do that with whatever girl I meet. Oh boy, this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Amit's phone is his girlfriend. He can't even watch a movie for 5 minutes without it. That is true. My phone is blowing up right now, dude. There's so many messages. Everyone's so excited. That's true, dude. I mean, I'm still I don't use the bathroom without my phone. Like I'm peeing in one hand and the other hand is on my phone, bro. Like I legitimately the other day I went to the bathroom without my phone and I was just like I was annoyed, dude. I was like I'm wasting 45 seconds. I need to go get my phone. This is stupid. So I'm a bit obsessed with my phone. That's one thing I have about my eventual girlfriend or wife. Like she has to be okay with me being on my phone. She just has to. And it's not like I'm going to be on my phone all day, but like if I'm on my phone, I just really don't want her to be like, can you please put your phone away? It's like, dude, like this is my life, bro. I'm grinding. Now, everything has its, nuance. If we're on our honeymoon or something, I'm not going to be on my phone. But like if we're just sitting together and I'm on my phone and she's not, talking where I need to be paying attention to her, I gotta be on my phone, bro. Like that's just like I really hope whatever girl I get with, she's okay with that, because that's like where my life is, So hopefully she's not too upset about that, especially on the days that Palantir gets into the S&P 500. Then we really gotta be on my phone. Shout out to Davis. Davis, what's up? Shout out to you in the chat. Yeah, man, this is incredible, dude. I wonder, so CNBC, I think, put out an article on them. Let's see their coverage. Oh, wow, they used Karp's picture. CNBC used Karp's picture. Look at that. Wow, they used Karp's picture. I haven't seen this picture of Karp before. They used the new Karp picture. Software maker Palantir will take the place of American Airlines, and Dell is replacing Etsy. Shares of companies added to the benchmark often rally after the announcement because fund managers who track the index regularly update their portfolios to mirror the additions. Palantir co-founder, CEO, and Alex Karp has gained a reputation for promoting patriotism in tech, helping the government and military agencies manage their data. He recently told the New York Times that Palantir is engaged in the finding of hidden things. My interest in profitability is for obvious reasons, but it's also, I think, we'll just be in a much stronger position as it becomes clear that we qualify for participation in the S&P, Karp told analysts on a conference call in May of 2023. Wow, dude. This is crazy. This is actually happening. This is wild. Layla says, I think when you find the one, you'll be on your phone a lot less in life. That's a good point. That's a very fair point. That's a mature point. When you find the one, you might be on your phone a lot less. That's fair, Layla. Can't argue with that. Cannot argue with that. Barron's did as well. All right, good. So mainstream media is talking about it. Oh man, this is special, dude. This is really, really special. Special day. It's a special day. I mean, really, like it's funny because I was skeptical, but then Steve last night, he was just like, no, it's going to happen. And when he said it, there was something soothing about his voice, the way he said it. And I was like, all right, I guess you're right, Steve. It was just like, nah, don't worry, we're going to get in. I was like, all right, yeah, I'm trying to be more conservative here, not hype up expectations. Because the worst thing you want to do is be like, yeah, we're definitely going to get in. And then people buy the stock because they see a tweet from me saying, hey, we're going to get in. And then we tank 20% and everyone's like, oh, why'd you make me buy? Even though I didn't make you buy. But it's how people think. And I'd rather not be the guy hyping it up if it doesn't happen. I also think that's a problem in content sometimes. Sometimes people get so obsessed with their narrative and they lack the nuance or objectivity. And it just leads them to be like hyperbolic, and I try not to be like that. I have my opinions, I'm biased, and I'm exuberant in certain moments of certain subjects, but I try not to be super hyperbolic, because then that, it can end up leading to wrong forms of analysis. But Steve said we're going to get in, and Steve has not been wrong. We are officially in. So, all right, that's it for me, guys. I think I'm out of here. Davis says Amit is literally the reason I continue to buy and hold in the sub chance. Dude, like, see, Davis has become a real friend of mine, right? So this is what I mean by this community thing. Like, me and Davis are in a group chat together. We talk about different subjects all the time. Like, it's one of those things where I did not think someone buying the stock when it was $8 watching my videos would become a friend that I've met in person. And I've met Davis in Vegas, and that, I talk to on a regular basis. So it's I think that's the best thing we're going to get out of this. 10 years down the road, we are so fucking early. When this stock is $150, $200, which I think it can get to one day, maybe even $250, which would be about $500 billion market cap. It's going to be all of us coming together, realizing that for years, literal years, just like Tesla from 2013 to now 2024, more than 10 years, they were on that journey on those Reddit forums, trying to figure out, where the batteries are going to come from, all this shit. All of us are going to remember these moments. Like, we were trying to figure out how to refresh the website, how to find the Bloomberg terminal to get into, like, it's going to be memories that are priceless. One day this journey will be over. I don't know when that day is going to happen. Maybe it's when Palantir's $1 trillion. Maybe when it's Palantir's $500 billion. Maybe when Palantir, like, whatever. Maybe, I have 3 kids one day and I just can't cover the company as much. Like, I don't know when this ends, but it will eventually, because everything comes to an end, and we're going to all have memories of this journey and of these moments together. And I just think that's really special, dude. Like, legitimately, I think that's really special. Because you don't have many journeys with many people. Like if you were on like I was on the debate team in high school, I have memories of traveling across the country and across the world with the international debate team that I was on in the United States. And those are real memories. Those are real friends that I still talk to. And that journey has ended, but those memories will stay with me for the rest of my life. So if you were on a basketball team in high school, or if you had friends in college and you started a startup, and maybe the startup didn't work out, but you guys tried to do something together. Like, there's life is made of these journeys, and then you die, right? Like, it's sorry to be morbid here, but then you fucking die. Like, we're all here for a small amount of time in the grand scheme of things, on average 70, 80 years. And then poof, we're gone. And then whether you go to heaven, hell, if there is a heaven or hell, like, it's just like, then then that's the ultimate unknown. But while you're here, it's about enjoying the journey, trying to give more than you take. And for us as investors, trying to make some real money and do things in the world that other people don't have the ability to do, because they don't care enough about compounding their capital. And to compound our capital and embrace the memes and the excitement and the jokes of a journey together as a community, I just think it's so fucking special. And I legitimately think it's going to be one of the best journeys that all of us go on, whether you're watching and you don't comment too much, whether you're on Twitter and you're commenting, whether you're joining the stream here and there. Like, if you're part of the journey, you're part of the journey. And it's going to be really fun to see how this all plays out. All right. That is it for me. Thank you, everybody. Patrick, I'm Beneficial, Philip, Nemo. Thank you all. Davis, Krupa, she says your kids will cover Palantir. Yeah, probably. My kids will end up covering it. They're going to take place in the family business. They're going to cover Palantir. That'd be hilarious. Who cut the onions? Sometimes you got to cut the onions. Thank you, everybody. Palantir right here. After hours, S&P 500, 7.98%, $32.75. We got about 45 minutes left. We'll see how it closes after hours. We'll be back for Palantir Weekly tonight, 11 p.m. For those that want to join, we'll be analyzing this more, along with some other things that happened this week. And then I'll be back Sunday night, 7:45, because now we start the streams on Sunday for the futures preview. And then Monday, we'll be back for the market open. And then next week, something big is happening. Something really big is happening. Legally, I cannot say what is happening. I also legally cannot say where I'm going, but I will be flying next week somewhere, which is why I'll miss the market close on Monday. And then I'll be in a hotel from Tuesday to Friday for the market open. And I'm missing the market close on Tuesday, not the market open. But I'll be in a hotel for the rest of the week. You guys will see what happens. It's going to be really fun. I think you guys are going to enjoy what's happening next week, but something big is happening. It'll be good content for the channel, and we'll keep this journey going. Thank you, everybody. From the bottom of my heart, it means the world to me. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for spending your time, which matters more than anything. Your time with me, because time is the one thing we can't get more of. Really means the world. Palantir, S&P 500, big day for shareholders, and a big milestone in a journey that's just beginning. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. I'll see you guys later.